All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us for our special meeting for cannabis licenses. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Furman.
Present.
Councilmember Holmes.
Present. I am pursuant to AB 2449. I am attending via Zoom due to just cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Miller.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramos Amit.
Present.
And Mayor Ortiz.
Present. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, would you like to lead us?
Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 3.1, award and issuance of City of Indio Cannabis Storefront Retail Business Program permits.
Thank you, Mayor. The staff report is very complete, but outlines a chronology of when this process started, essentially, for the City Council to address the possibility of providing for cannabis retail licenses here in Indio. First, I want to thank our Community Development Director, Kevin Snyder, who led this effort. There are many other staff members involved, including the City Attorney, members of the Police Department, other departments. But what you see outlined today is the process that led us to the opportunity now for me to present those through this very rigorous process that we believe are the most qualified pursuant to the ordinance and resolution and application process to be selected as the 5 retail licenses here in the City of Indio. So the time is now available for them. They have been given some very general information to use as a guide for the presentations that will take place. They have about 7 to 8 minutes to make some presentations. There's time for some questions that the City Council would have. And then at the conclusion, an opportunity for public comments, any discussion, questions you might have, and then looking forward to a decision. Our recommendation is that these 5 individual firms be selected as the retail licensees here in the City of Indio. So first up, Mayor, then without further ado, we have Shrine Indio LLC doing business as Stizzy. Again, they have been provided about 7 to 8 minutes for a presentation and then some questions of the council. And then we would move on to Culture Cannabis Club thereafter.
Hi. There you go.
My name is Tak Sato. I am the president of the company, and I'm here with Stephanie Uy, VP of Government Relations. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We are by far the largest cannabis company in California with 32 open retail stores, 7 cultivation facilities, 5 manufacturing facilities, 4 distribution facilities, and 2,800 employees in California. In the past month alone, we've opened 3 new retail stores in Costa Mesa, El Cerrito, and Oxnard, which also goes to our ability to get our stores open during a time when cannabis companies are struggling to get their facilities open. We had over $540 million in sales in 2022, and we're on track to exceed $750 million in sales in 2023. Next slide, please. The keys to our success are, number 1, We are vertically integrated, meaning we cultivate our own flower, manufacture our own products, and sell our own products at our own stores. This allows us to control our supply chain and ensure the quality and safety of our products we sell at our stores, but also allows us to sell our own products for around 25% cheaper than our competitors. Second, our Stizzy brand name is the #1 cannabis brand in the country right now. As you can see on the graph on the left, our products sell more than any other products nationally by a large margin. Much like In-N-Out or Nike, we have an extremely strong customer following that immediately flock to our stores when we open. The Indio residents we have spoken with are all very excited about a Stizzy store possibly being available so close by. Also, due to our number of stores and our brand popularity, we have conducted over 10 million transactions to customers since our inception. This experience, serving over 10 million customers, has allowed us to institute the best-in-industry standard operating procedures for every aspect of our business, such as customer check-in, inventory management, cash management, security, neighborhood outreach, etc. In addition to our day-to-day operational experience, I believe we have the most experienced back-office team in the industry. Our CFO, Greg Fink, who was the Chief Accounting Officer at Fannie Mae and oversees a team of 30 accounting and finance professionals. The CDTFA announced in December that cannabis companies are delinquent in over $500 million in taxes as of December 2022. Despite paying over $215 million in taxes last year, our accounting and finance team ensured that we paid all our taxes on time and in full. We also have 8 dedicated compliance employees who conduct internal audits and create SOPs to ensure that we are never in violations of any laws or regulations. Our 47 cannabis facilities have a perfect compliance record despite being audited annually by state and city officials. This business will be owned 51% by local Liliana Gutierrez Romo, who has lived in the Coachella Valley since 2000 and raised her 4 children here. She'll be one of our community liaisons leading local volunteer events and making sure that we are not being a nuisance to the community. Turn it over to Stephanie.
The first step of our neighborhood compatibility plan is selecting the right location away from schools, churches, and other sensitive uses. Our location is located over 1 mile from the closest school and church. It is also located in the far back portion of Shadow Hills Plaza, so it will not be visible from Avenue 42 or Jackson Street, minimizing any impact to commuters or folks walking on the street. We've selected this location in large part due to the 480 parking spot parking lot. A common complaint from cannabis businesses is customers parking illegally or on other businesses' property. We are confident that this will not be an issue due to our ample parking. Our location is located in the middle of a large commercial area north of the 10 freeway and across the street from the Indio Town Center and Showcase, which means that any additional commercial activity from our business will have a negligible traffic impact. We've also engaged the community for over the past 2 years and have had over 4 open houses and attended numerous community events in order to speak to our neighbors and hear their concerns. The feedback we've gotten so far is our neighboring businesses are very excited about the additional security and security cameras we will bring to the plaza, as businesses such as Goody's Cafe and Tony's Nail and Spa have been recently broken into. They've also shared they're excited that our location may bring more business to the plaza, as it currently has a vacancy rate of 30%. So we hope to be a vibrant anchor tenant that brings an economic boost to the plaza with our high volume business. If awarded the license, we will only continue to build on our outreach efforts and hold annual open houses to keep lines of communication open with our neighbors and hear any concerns they may have. We will post the phone number and email information for myself, Frank Sanchez, our Community Liaison Director, and Liliana Romo, our local partner, so that customers and neighbors will be able to reach out to us at any time with any concerns. Moreover, we will post our good neighbor policy in the lobby as a concrete commitment to our community and to hold ourselves accountable to being an active and responsible community partner. Some examples of this policy include clean up the premises 3 times a day, absolutely no loitering, we have a second security guard to conduct perimeter walks, absolutely no consumption of cannabis products around our store in the parking lot, No loud music or noise over 60 decibels. All lighting will be shielded and pointing downward to not disturb our neighbors. And ensuring no cannabis odor from the store, as we will have checks and our staff will be trained to address any smell. Responding to complaints within 24 hours. All of the concerns and complaints are required to be documented and recorded into the community inquiry database, which I will check on a daily basis. All issues will be remediated quickly, such as sound and loitering, and any issues with HVAC or graffiti will be fixed within 24 hours of the complaint. And lastly, we'll follow up directly with the person who made the complaint to make sure that we've addressed their needs. Lastly, as an experienced operator, we take our job very seriously, and we'll do all that we can to make sure that any issues that arise, we take care of fully, and they do not arise to the level of the city and use any city resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have a list of questions that I'll ask from every applicant. Some of the answers you've already given in your presentation, but we're still going to ask them just to be consistent throughout the process. And so the first question I have, it's a few questions on local ownership. And the first one I have is, who is the local owner of your company?
It is Liliana Romo. She is a resident of La Quinta in the Coachella Valley, and she is actually somebody that we met through one of our employees at our company.
Okay, thank you. Next one, how long have they been living as a resident in the Coachella Valley?
22 years, I believe.
22 years. How much % equity do they hold within the company?
51%.
51%. What % of the profit do they expect to receive from this operation?
51%.
How much managerial control do they have in terms of, for example, hiring of key staff and running day-to-day operations?
With her, there are certain instances where we do need to weigh in, but she will have essentially the control of a CEO of the company.
Okay.
The Riverside Sheriff's Department, an annual of $10,000.
Thank you.
Can you repeat that? It was Martha's and who else, Rat?
Martha's Kitchen, the Rap Foundation.
No facility until a couple of years ago, and when they moved out. It's on a very busy intersection there on Avenue 42, and as far as making sure the improvements, we picked it because, number one, we noticed that when we were speaking with other applicants and also looking and speaking with the city council and city officials, excuse me, they mentioned that even though churches were not a sensitive use per se in the map, the city officials we spoke with had a strong feeling that it would be nice if the cannabis locations were away from the many churches in Indio. And we noticed when we looked at the map that a lot of the churches are actually concentrated on the south part of Indio. So the other reason is that we noticed that that area is pretty developed. It has a lot of anchor tenants in the other malls there. They have a Burger King and Dunkin' Donuts, but the Indian Hills Plaza, the Shadow Hills Plaza, from the Good Eats and some of the other restaurants and retailers we spoke with, they don't have an anchor tenant, and so there's a lot of ample parking. And there's a lot of opportunity for us to improve that facility with our security system, making sure we do community patrols so that some of the homeless people and the encampments that have the potential to pop up do not pop up in that center. And so as far as be limited on what we can do because it's part of a larger center, but we will repaint, install new locks and new doors, and institute our new vaults and new security systems inside of the store. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Anybody else have any questions here?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. First off, I don't know if you said it, I may have missed it. Did you mention how many employees this location would have?
We did not, but we believe it should be one of our typical stores of 40 to 50 employees.
40 to 50. So You mentioned how you have a few locations. How many employees do you have altogether for your brand?
We have 2,800 employees in California.
2,800 employees in California. So do you support unionizing of your employees?
Yes, we actually are one of the few cannabis operators to have a global collective bargaining agreement with the UFCW. And so automatically, as we enter new jurisdictions, as long as the employees sign their cards to be in favor of being unionized, every one of our new stores will be unionized, including Indio.
Okay. I just have one more question. You mentioned that you did outreach. Did you do outreach in the the neighboring area, and how did you conduct that outreach?
We conducted 4 open houses on site at our location. We did mail invitations around the surrounding area to invite the community to come to our location and voice any concerns.
Do you know how far those invitations went out?
At least 1,000 feet radius from our location.
Okay, can you just go back to your security, how that will be at that location as far as on staff? Is it armed? Do you have cameras? Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. We'll have at least 2 armed guards on site during the operational hours, and we plan to have another separate security guard on site during non-operational hours, so that there is a security guard on site 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. We'll have roughly 35 to 40 high-definition cameras, which will blanket the interior and exterior of our stores. We'll also have panic buttons. And one of the beautiful things that separates us from some of the other security plans is that we contract with a third-party camera surveillance company that watches all of our cameras 24 hours a day, and they have a direct line of sight and communication with our security guards on site. And any time that our third-party camera surveillance team sees anything suspicious or anything that might be of concern, they immediately call or communicate with our security guards on site to investigate it. So we believe we have a very robust system.
Okay, I just have one more question, Mayor. In our world today, DEI is very important. How do you plan to address that in your location?
Yes, we are proud to be a company where employees are 79% people of color and 59% identify as women. And so the way we do that is when we recruit and hire, we make sure that we reach all communities. And we have within our HR department folks really focusing on ensuring that we recruit those from underrepresented communities, but also a very, very strong focus on local hire.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one. Thank you very much for your presentation. It sounds like you've been very successful. What would you say is the reason for your success, considering the market has been very well saturated in other areas, but it seems to be that you're able to pay your taxes and everything else? What makes you so different?
So I think what makes us the most different is that in this relatively new industry, there aren't many companies of our size and reputation that have built the trust with their customers. As I mentioned, we control our supply chain from seed to sale, which allows us to make sure our products are safe and tested and don't have the toxins that other people may have to worry about. And so I think our brand recognition and really having gained the trust of our customers, they know what to expect from a Stizzy brand. They know what to expect from a Stizzy store. And so, for lack of a better word, when people think of In-N-Out, they know what to expect as far as quality and service. And we'd like to think that we're thought of the same way.
And then one last question. So why Indio? You could put your money anywhere. What makes Indio so special to you to be able to be successful here?
Sure. So interestingly, we have a store maybe 15 miles away in Palm Desert. And one of the things we noticed was that a lot of the customers, maybe 20-30% of the customers that shop there actually are coming from the eastern Coachella Valley. And so we thought it was we realized that there's a huge demand for our products and our stores there. And also we think it would be a nice thing if those people from the eastern Coachella Valley have much easier access to our store, much closer. And we're actually building this store to be much larger than our Palm Desert store, because part of the reason we don't see the revenue we do at some of our larger stores is because that store is only 1,800 square feet. So this will be a much larger 4,500 square feet location, which can really meet the demand that we're already seeing.
Thank you.
If I could just add to that, Councilmember.
Of course.
We see that the redevelopment and the revitalization that the council and the city are prioritizing here in the downtown area, but also in the northern part of the 10 freeway where we're located. And with the reputation and the programming that Indio has on an annual basis due to festivals and such, we saw that this would be a great opportunity for us to not only serve, especially the 30% that live here in the eastern Coachella Valley, but to bring local jobs in the area and be a retailer that is open throughout the summer and throughout the year, and to bring good local unionized jobs to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I think I only have a couple of questions left after everyone was so thorough in their questioning. You mentioned your building, so do you already have control over the building? Is it leased? Is it bought? What's the status of the building?
Yes, we have a binding lease agreement for that property.
You have a binding
Lease agreement, yes, it's signed and executed.
For how long?
It's initially 5 years with a 5-year option to extend.
5 plus 5?
Yes.
Okay, and the last question, and I'm not sure this will apply to all of the applicants, because you have a seed to sale program, or you are a seeds to sale agency. Is Stizzy carried in other stores or strictly in Stizzy stores?
Yes, it's, our products are carried in 90% of the stores in California.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next would be Culture Cannabis Club.
Use this clicker. Okay. You all set? All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, staff, and residents of the great city of Indio. My name is Devin Julian. I am the CEO of Culture Cannabis Club, and today we present you an opportunity to bring culture cannabis to the city of Indio. First, we'll talk about owner experience and residency. There we go. So first, Culture Cannabis Club, we currently have 31 locations nationwide. We are headquartered in the city of Irvine. We started in California, and we currently have 26 locations throughout the state, going as far as Red Bluff and as far south as Wildomar. With 31 total, we have central headquarters in Irvine that includes all of the supportive services that help ensure that the stores can save money, including human resources, operations, recruiting. We have inventory control, training and development, accounting, finance, and tax specialists, all within that central headquarters. We do have brand recognition since we are coast to coast and end to end in the state of California. And we do have vertical integration. So similar to what you just heard with Stizzy, we do have cultivation in the cities of Banning and San Jacinto. So we cultivate our own products. We also manufacture and extract our own products and distribute. We self-distribute centrally, currently out of the city of Long Beach, with one of the lowest tax rates within the state as far as distribution goes. And all of that is to say that we're able to pass that savings on to the customer and also continue to compete on price with both our competition, which is here today, but also to compete with the black market that is so prevalent across the state still. First, I will introduce myself. My name is Devin Julian. I've got over 12 years of cannabis experience and 15 years in scaling small businesses. Day to day, I will be involved in oversight and execution of the operations, making sure that we're meeting all of our accounting and financial goals, the design of the entire facility, build out, licensing, budget oversight, brand partnerships, and sales goals and results. Next would be Julie Lee. She's our Director of Administration. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it due to a funeral this afternoon, but she's got over 5 years of cannabis experience. She's the creator of the culture branding and ensures brand continuity. Her day-to-day oversight includes human resources, brand design and vision, as well as marketing. Next, I'll introduce our 51% partner, local resident, Gopi.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone again. My name's Gopi Sangha. I would be the majority local owner. I'm a resident near the polo fields there. I've been operating here in the city of Indio on events and festivals since 2008. Really try to stay as engaged in this community as possible. To me, this partnership and our work with culture is exciting to continue that. And one reason I sought this partnership with culture is because they share the same values as me in diversity, in safe and accessible cannabis that is affordable, working towards professionalizing young local staff and kids into this new exciting industry. So that's places where we were really aligned. I already hold a cannabis license with the DCC as a cannabis event organizer. My agency, Cusp Agency, is a very forward and recognized agency in cannabis marketing at events and integrating cannabis into live experiences. In doing so, I'm already very familiar with the regulations and operations required for a cannabis operation. In my partnership here in the city of Indio, I'll serve as the Director of Operations and the Director of Community. So I'll be managing and supervising day to day at this location, obviously leveraging the experience of Julie Lee and Devin along that way. And I'll be the point of contact and relationship with the community and our community partners along the way.
Next, some key employees. We have Christina D'Angelo, who is our Director of Compliance. She's a specialist in local and state regulation with over 7 years in regulated cannabis. And then Breji McCoy, who is our Chief of Communications. He has over 17 years of experience in public policy, including working for the county and city of Fresno, and over 7 years in commercial retail development. Next, we'll go over some neighborhood compatibility. Our location is 45151 Oasis Street. If you walk out the door, I won't make you do it right now because it's over 100, but you can actually see the location. It meets all of the setback requirements for both city and state. And as you can see from some of the artistic renderings here below, we are going to refresh the facade, new paint, which has actually already been done, bring some new landscaping, security, adequate lighting, signage, some locally relevant art that will be approved through planning. And adequate parking is already available off-street. Our interior design focuses on a more open-air, traditional retail experience versus what you might consider kind of a jewelry store experience working one-on-one across glass cases. So as you can see from the top photo, which is actually our store in Banning, California, not far from here, and then the lower picture is from Long Beach. We actually offer the customer the opportunity to walk around and browse the sales floor. All of the products that you see on those shelves are actually empty product packaging that the customer can interact with and then put on these touch screens that you see here to educate themselves. Culture Cannabis Club is really focused on education at all levels. We are a premier partner with the League of Cal Cities, so we help with local policy making and regulations down to community outreach and educating the community any opportunity we get, and then also in-store educating all of our customers using these kiosks. A customer can interact with that product packaging, put it on the touch screen. It will tell them more about that product, some of the potential benefits of it from a medicinal standpoint. It will tell them the price, and then they can actually add it to their digital cart. This is in addition to our cannabis consultants that are throughout the floor and greeting customers as they come in. After you build your digital cart, you don't actually see any live product until after you've paid for your order and then receive it from the point of sale in a child-proof opaque bag. Next, we want to talk about safety and security. It is a top priority for Culture Cannabis Club, and it's resulted in 0 calls for service for robberies or burglaries in any of our locations. We do this through armed guards on site 24/7, limited access areas with badge in, badge out requirements. We do have banking, so it's not a fully cash business. We do have armored courier service that comes and picks up cash at certain cash levels, and we do take debit cards, and currently that is a growing method of payment for us, and right now the average is about 30% of all transactions being done via debit, and then on-site ATM access as well. We also make sure that we maintain a good neighbor policy. As you can see from the flyer up there on the right, which is a little small and blurry, but we actually have already done some community outreach. So we went to the local businesses and residents near this location. We passed out that flyer and invited them to a community meeting to ask questions and give feedback. We will have a community relations officer available 24/7 by phone, which will be our local partner here, Gopi. We'll have that phone number posted on the exterior of the facility, as well as proactively pass it out to our neighbors so that they don't have to actually enter the facility should they have any questions, comments, or concerns. There is an intake process where we fill out a form, understand what any questions, concerns may be, and then we make sure that we close that out through whether it's an investigation or some other corrective action, and then we follow up with that person should they want to provide their contact info. We make sure that the guards and staff maintain a no loitering policy. There's noise control, traffic control. We have odor mitigation filters and policies in place that include checks in the mornings and evenings to make sure that there's no odor resonating from the facility. We have cannabis waste management, recycling, and water management plans in place to make sure that we are eco-friendly. Jobs, we want to make sure that we're promoting 100% local workforce. We do have a relationship with the UFCW, and we have a labor peace agreement with every single one of our locations prior to putting in an application. So currently we have one with this application that's before you today. They have access to the contact information and break room at any time on their request to meet with the staff should they so choose to move forward in recognizing and unionizing. We currently are actively negotiating a collective bargaining agreement in the city of Long Beach with the UFCW. We offer above average wages, health, vision, dental, paid time off, paid holidays, paid time to volunteer, as well as career growth as we are an expanding brand in the space. We do have a robust diversity and inclusion program that's resulted in 75% of our managers being female and about 70% of our workforce coming from a diverse background. Next, I'll pass this over to Gopi to finish it out.
Sure. One of the more exciting parts for me is using this as a partnership to continue our community engagement. In year one, we're estimating over $60,000 in community donations to several organizations here in Indio and a little beyond to support their missions. And that'll be on an ongoing and regular basis. Beyond those commitments, our staff at the location has paid volunteer hours, so they'll be able to directly engage with their time and effort. And I'm really excited for the professional development we can offer to the youth in this community to be a part of an exciting industry.
Thank you for your time, and we're prepared for your questions, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. So first question is going to be, who is the local owner in your company?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm Gopi Sangha. I'm the local owner, and I've been a resident here in the community since January 2021, and I've been working here since 2008.
Okay. And then how much % equity do you hold within the company?
I'm 51% owner of this business.
What % of the profit do you expect to receive from this operation?
51% of the profits.
How much managerial control do you have?
Sure. Since I live relatively close, I will be the day-to-day supervisor and at the store location on a regular basis. And I will be working on a daily basis to leverage the experience of Culture Cannabis Co. So I expect to be doing the hiring. I expect to be programming the events and culture. And I expect to be supervising a professional operation.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next questions. Again, these are kind of long, so let me know if you need me to repeat them at any time. First one's going to be, describe your community benefits and investment plan in terms of one-time and or ongoing financial and non-financial investments that your business will make in the Indio community.
Thank you for the question, Mayor. So as you see on the last slide that we've left up, we are committing to 1% of gross profits to go into a fund that would go into some of the already identified local nonprofits and community groups. But we are flexible and open as we grow, and the needs of the community may change, making sure that we're staying committed. So we've identified the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, Desert Recreation Foundation, the Gailey Center, and then of course with Gopi's experience, with the festivals and everything like that, wanting to continue to contribute to the music and arts. We've identified Academy of Musical Performance, AMP Camp, as one of the beneficiaries. In addition to that, there is the 5% of gross receipts going to the city as part of, in lieu of a gross tax.
Gotcha. Thank you. Second question, please describe your business location and the surrounding area. Discuss why you chose this location. Discuss what improvements you will make to the site and/or building, and how you will ensure that this location is a positive contribution to the surrounding area and to the city.
I think I got all the points there, but please correct me if I don't finish. So 4515 Oasis Street, right over here on Oasis, we saw it as we came in. We selected the site first and foremost because it meets all sensitive use setbacks and requirements for both the city and state. Some of the improvements that we plan to make on it are improving the lighting and security, making sure that's adequate. We also like the location because it's got adequate parking. We will make sure that there's some landscaping that's improved, signage, as well as some locally relevant art that goes along with the branding that the beautiful city of Indio is going through themselves as a city of festivals. We chose this site, with Gopi's help, specifically because of the redevelopment that the city of Indio is putting into downtown right here near City Hall. So we see, as we walked in, shockingly still people working in that 100-degree heat on the improvement at the college. We know that there's some development going on right next to this location as well, for some housing and the continued reinvestment there. So we wanted to be downtown and be part of that redevelopment that the city is going to continue to help with.
Yeah, to add to that location, excited to this location and its proximity to continue being involved in all the exciting programming downtown, and using the location as another venue and opportunity for creating events that support education of cannabis culture or the arts, as we program things like Second Saturday. So we really wanted to be a part of the energy that's coming down here, and we think it's a great location that will offer really professional and convenient services to the students, to the local business community. So we're very excited to have this right nearby.
Okay, thank you. And I'll open it up to our other council members. Also, just a suggestion, to make this a fair process, we do want to try to keep consistent with the questions that we're asking of each applicant. So I'll go ahead.
We want to be fair, we can start down there.
Sure.
Let's start. So all of the other applicants disclosed their legal formation. Culture CC, Indio, DBA, Culture Cannabis Club doesn't indicate if it's a LLC corporation, general partnership. What is your
C Corp.
You're a C Corp, okay. And when you were describing the building, you didn't mention the square footage. Are you taking the entire building?
We're taking the left side. What was the total square footage?
I think total is 4,000 between the lounge and the retail operation. It was the old Zumba studio that was there prior. There hasn't been a tenant since.
So you'll have signage on both buildings, even though you're only taking the one?
We would only have signage where applicable, since the parking lot for that building is shared on both sides. As long as the landlord and the city approves, we would have signage on both sides.
Okay.
Try and get that maximum exposure.
So what is your lease agreement or buy agreement?
Currently, we have an option on the property. We haven't executed a full lease, but we would go into a 5x5 for a minimum of a 10-year.
Okay. Can you cover security for us, since that was a question that was asked prior?
Yes, of course, Mayor Pro Tem. So starting on the exterior, it starts with adequate lighting as well as an armed security guard on site 24/7. As you get closer to the building, it would be 24/7 video and audio surveillance on every exterior and interior square foot that we can cover. That guard is on site 24/7, as we said. As you continue to go in, we would have a secure reception area, so it would have buzz-in entry. You're going to be ID verified by first the security guard and then by a reception inside. where we're going to log all of your contact info, including a copy of your ID, to ensure that we have that. We do scan it with your typical ID verification scanner, similar to the TSA or another alcohol establishment. Once we have all that, including your contact info, you're going to be buzzed into the sales floor. Part of our security is not having any live product on the sales floor at all. So while you have this open air experience, it is only product packaging that you're going to be able to view. We have limited access areas, so all the product is going to be located behind the point of sale, not accessible to any of the customers until after they make a purchase. And then there is going to be a separate entrance into the lounge area. Within the lounge area, you would be going through the same exact security protocols before you can enter into that. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we do have armed couriers coming to pick up the cash on a regular basis. We do have banking. We do take debit cards as well. And we make sure that all of those areas are limited access and any visitors are logged and verified prior to coming in.
So when you mention lounge, is that a consumption lounge?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be a consumption and event space, with Gobi's experience really extending some of the other experiences that are had in town, from the festivals, concerts, as well as some of the local events as well, trying to bridge that gap between the two.
And can you expand on your outreach efforts prior to this hearing for community input?
Yeah, so we had a representative walk around and knock on some doors, pass out those flyers. We've approached the local businesses a couple of times and met with them. All of them have been supportive. The tattoo shop is supportive. I think they are busy. They were willing to come and speak on our behalf. We wanted to do something that people could feel comfortable with, so we did a webinar series, so they could scan it with their phone, QR code. That led to a Google Meet, and you could do that over the phone as well to be more anonymous should you so want to. We didn't get a lot of involvement from that, but we were knocking on doors and we were passing that out to make sure that if anybody had any questions that they could, leaving contact info as well as the flyer and the opportunity to attend those meetings.
Did you have a radius that you outreach to?
We passed out about 70 flyers. It wasn't a specific radius. It was basically walking distance.
How many employees do you anticipate at this site?
We usually launch a location with about 25 employees. It does take a little time for the market to know that you're there due to the limitations on marketing that cannabis has. But we anticipate this one to be between 40 and 50 at full ramp up.
And are they usually part-time?
No, full-time.
Okay.
About 10% will be part-time.
Okay. And you're a seed-to-sale organization as well, so is Culture Brand in other stores?
No, Culture Brand is not in other stores.
Okay. And what about your diversity policy?
Our diversity policy focuses, certainly on the social equity and those that are disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. So we're very heavily involved in various, trade groups and associations and making sure that we give them opportunities. And then within our HR department, we just make sure that we're partnering with those local groups that attracts that kind of talent. As I said in the presentation, it's resulted in 75% female representation identified as our managers, and over 70% of our workforce coming from a diverse background.
Okay, I'll let you finish up with your questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you again for the presentation. I'll go back to the same question I asked the previous applicants. So what makes you successful? Obviously, I see you got a couple grows. One you said in Banning and San Jacinto.
Mm-hmm.
And do they only supply your stores, or do you have to purchase other product from other growers?
We purchase from the open market. It's similar to any other retail. If you're in wine, you kind of have to have those brands that everybody does. So for the vertical integration for the supply chain side, we do wholesale it to other brands. Oftentimes when you buy a jar, it can be from the same cultivation or manufacturing facility. If you look closely on the labels, it's just a branding thing, right? It's a way that they present themselves and market differently. So we do have a distribution that purchases all of our product in Long Beach, and through that we do that because we do the last mile delivery, which allows us the opportunity to negotiate better bulk buying power, better strategic partnerships, and we can control the inventory flow rather than having 20 deliveries a week to a location from all these different distributors and brands. We only have 3 to 4 through that process.
And you grow in San Jacinto, but you don't have a store in San Jacinto.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. So what makes you successful? Why Indio?
I'll start with why Indio. You know, we've got a pretty big presence in the Inland Empire as it is, which I know is not the Coachella Valley, but we've always had our eyes on this area. I've been a part of some other projects, you know, from friends and things like that, and seen the success here. You know, we met Gopi and developed a relationship, and the opportunity arose. You know, the closest location here is Banning, and Banning is really a commuter store, right? So we see a lot of different customers that are coming and going from the Coachella Valley, and so people are already kind of familiar with the Culture brand. So we wanted to bring that ability to come to the store here. You know, looking at our metrics, we've got, you know, Cabazon, Palm Springs, Indio, a lot of different customers that, as they're going that way on the 10, they stop by because it is such a unique experience. And I think that that's what makes us successful. You know, amongst a lot of the other things we already discussed, is you're not really going to find another experience like Culture Cannabis clubs with that open air shopping experience, with that technology, with that ability to learn. We are in an industry that's expanding very rapidly. It's normalizing. You've got a lot of people looking for alternatives, from whether it be prescription medications or even to alcohol and other, you know, recreational things. They want to try something. So coming in that kind of low pressure environment, being able to interact with the product packaging is very unique, but then being able to put it on the screen, and, you know, rather than trusting somebody that you're one-on-one with and they have 400 to 1,000 SKUs within the store, you can put it down and read exactly what that manufacturer wanted you to hear, as well as some other subjective feedback on, you know, maybe it helps with sleep, those types of things, because we can only make recommendations, not medical advice. We are not physicians, and we do not pretend to be, but it can help with sleep, right? This can help with appetite, those types of things. So with that unique business model, with the technology, as well as our community outreach, we've been successful in all the markets that we've gone into.
And just one last one. So do you think where your location is, obviously downtown's going to grow. It's going to take a little while. The campus is going to be a couple of years out. The restaurants will come, and it will come, and it will be very flourishing. But some of the other cannabis applicants are going to be in the same area. You think that being inland, where it is more towards individuals that are coming to be in the city of Indio in the downtown area, or are you thinking that along that people will actually come in off the freeway to come into your facility? Because you're talking a lounge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we want to be a destination, you know, first and foremost, Culture with our footprint. We are, you know, becoming more well-known. I definitely don't want to say that we're to the level of Talk and Stizzy, but we are, you know, a growing brand with a lot of recognition, especially on people that come down to the Coachella Valley area, including Indio, for leisure, right? And so that recognition, I think, will pull people to Culture. But then with Gopi's experience and his involvement in, you know, with Coachella, with Stagecoach, the other festivals and events that he either is throwing or part of, or the relationships that he has, as well as with the city, Tamale Fest, Second Saturdays, things like that. We believe that it'll be a destination where people will come and want to, you know, come and experience the different programming that he's going to put together.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a couple of quick questions. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for answering some of those questions before we get to you. You talked about outreach. We know that the College of the Desert is in close proximity. I appreciate your eagerness to be downtown because of the growth and the revitalization. However, we know cannabis is 18 and older business. We want our downtown to also be nurturing to our youth and families. And so that leads me to, can you expand on engagement with College of the Desert and any kind of filtration system that you'll have at your location to mitigate the smell in our downtown area?
Yeah, I'll start with the last question first, if you don't mind, and then I think Gopi can kind of touch on some of the community outreach, since he's already been part of the community for so long. For our odor mitigation, we have, you know, within the lounge will be smoke eaters, similar that they use currently in cigar lounges, things like that. In addition to that, we have activated carbon filters that actually will be inside, that are pulling in that creates a vacuum within there. So when you pull open the door, there's not going to be any air being pushed out. It actually creates a vacuum so that we're sucking that air in. We're treating that air through our HVAC system, and it results in no smell. In addition to that, all of the products are sealed and tamper evident. It's a requirement within the state of California. And so there's not as much smell as there once was. The lounge would be the only thing that will cause some smell, but we'll make sure that we have those filtration devices within that facility, and then they're also within the HVAC system. In addition to that, we have a policy where we're going out on a regular basis, and we just have employees walk around and just smell, just take in a deep breath and see if they notice anything, so we're proactive about it. And then, of course, there is that reporting mechanism, the phone number on the outside, as well as to our neighbors. If there ever is an issue for some reason, then they can contact us and we'll address it immediately. Just to put one particular point of clarification, Councilman, it's 21 and up allowed within the stores. For 18 and up, you do have to be a medical patient with a medical recommendation. So we do serve some 18-year-olds, but it's usually 21 and up.
Yeah. I'm a correctional officer. I'm not in the
I'm sorry, I don't mean to correct you. I just I'm trying to be a rule follower.
No, correct, because we want to get this right the first time out the gate, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, with the programming, we intend to be fully compliant with all the marketing regulations. As an event producer and promoter, I'm already very well versed in sort of regulated products and marketing them, like alcohol, through our events, and regulating and enforcing the consumption of those things, which is why cannabis for me is very analogous. And so our events will be purely targeted to 21 and over, and obviously these are happening on premises, so there's obviously a lot of regulation on what could be marketed on the street, imagery, offers, promotions. So we expect to be fully compliant and hopefully a nice offering for the adult community. We don't particularly intend to do many offsite activations or go into, we want to be a part of the thriving business community happening downtown, and hopefully a stop in their night if they're of age. In terms of programming, really number one focus is education. We think there's a lot of groups of folks out there, from non-English speakers to seniors, that want to understand cannabis culture and products more, and creating a space for that. And then integrating some arts and culture. Don't intend on doing a lot of live events and stuff, which you might know me for, but being adjacent to the things that are happening downtown, and obviously being extremely respectful of marketing to the adult community only.
Thank you.
And then Ms. Holmes, do you have any questions?
You guys are doing a great job. Thank you very, very much. I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next step
Right,
would
thank
be
you.
West Coast Cannabis.
All right, good afternoon, Council. I feel like this has been a long time coming. My name is Kenneth Churchill. I am the CEO and co-founder of Coachella Valley Zone West Coast Cannabis Club. Next to me here is my Chief Operating Officer and co-founder and close friend for almost 20 years now, Thomas Lopez. I want to start off by saying that we greatly appreciate the amount of work that Kevin and Brian and the city staff has put together on this over the last few years, as well as you as the council. It takes an incredible amount of work to get this going, and as a hopeful operator, I truly appreciate that you guys have come up with a system that's going to allow for us to be successful cannabis businesses. It is an honor to introduce my company and our project to you. Go ahead, Tommy. West Coast Cannabis Club is a vertically integrated cannabis company headquartered in the Coachella Valley. Over the last 7 years, the company has gone from a $10,000 initial investment to over $10 million in annual revenue. And in this time, the company has grown from 3 employees in a small office to over 50 employees, 3 retail locations, and a delivery service. We achieved our first brick-and-mortar location in Cathedral City in 2017, and it was at this location that we had the first recreational cannabis sale in California history on January 1st, 2018. Also in 2018, we were approved for 2 more licenses in Palm Desert, California, a retail location on Highway 111, and a 35,000 square foot micro business in the former KESQ news studio. The Palm Desert micro business is equipped with a distribution center, manufacturing lab, a full-size kitchen, and over 10,000 square feet of cultivation canopy. All of our owners are active in our day-to-day business. We are locals to the Coachella Valley and pledge to be present at our location and in our community. We are a small, close team who has been friends for a long time, long before we started this company. We each have our own identified roles in the day-to-day operations, and those roles correspond well to our strengths. Collectively, we oversee the construction and licensing phase, sourcing materials, identifying brands for our menu, the hiring of our local staff, and providing human resources and payroll. Once the store is open, we will work together to set expectations on customer service and compliance with our staff. We will use the procedures detailed within our application to train our team and ensure that they understand the commitments that we have made to the City of Indio. We will establish procedures for product intake, counting inventory, placing product orders, and cash handling procedures. We will draw on standard operating procedures from our already open Coachella Valley businesses to establish best practices for our Indio location. West Coast Cannabis Club has a long reputation for being an active supporter of our community. We have long-standing relationships with local nonprofits and are happy to establish a few new ones with Indio-specific charities. Some of the groups we work with are Martha's Village and Kitchen, Find Food Bank, Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, Lifestream Blood Bank, the Family of YMCA of the Desert, and Shelter from the Storm. Additionally, we've supplied letters of recommendation from many of these groups. In addition to international recognition and publications like Forbes, Rolling Stone, and BBC News, we've been recognized locally by the desert's most respected publications. We've won back-to-back Best Dispensary in the Coachella Valley from the Desert Sun, Best Cannabis Company from Palm Springs Life, Medium Business of the Year from the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, and the award that we are most proud of is being awarded the best place to work in the entire Coachella Valley from the Desert Sun. We have also submitted several letters of recommendation from local leaders who can attest to our integrity and our ability to operate to the highest standard. We have letters from elected officials like Karina Quintanilla, Mayor Pro Tem of Palm Desert, and Ernesto Gutierrez, former mayor and current council member of Cathedral City. I'd like to share a quote from a recommendation letter provided by Cathedral City Police Chief, Chief Crum. Mr. Churchill clearly has the requisite knowledge and intellectual ability to be a successful business owner and operator within your city. Mr. Churchill has historically shown an excellent commitment to Cathedral City and an abundant amount of initiative, knowledge, and skills. Therefore, I give him my highest recommendation. I don't know if he did that on purpose, but... Additionally, I've been hired as a subject matter expert in the field of cannabis for the College of the Desert. After noticing that so many of their students were going into careers in the cannabis industry, COD had reached out to West Coast Cannabis Club to develop curriculum on serving cannabis-facing subjects. I teach students on how to build cannabis resumes, customer service, cultivation basics, and even a cooking with cannabis course where the students actually come to our facility and learn to cook edibles. All right, let's talk about our location. On Highway 111, just west of Madison, our location is conveniently near several neighborhoods serving businesses. With Highway 111 frontage, we are favorably located for residents of neighboring cities, tourists, and festival goers to stop on their way through Indio. It is a 2,100 square foot standalone building. It has a walk score of 85 out of 100. It's a very walkable location, and there's a bus stop less than 300 feet away from our facility. The project takes an old building, heavily renovates it to improve street appeal, and the area is free of sensitive uses and will not make for a distraction to our community. This is just a quick snapshot of some interior renderings of our location so you can get an idea of the look. And right here, you've got some exterior renovations, including some improvements to the facade, new landscaping, and repainting the exterior of the building. I personally will serve as the company's community relations director. Any complaints or issues in relation to our location can be directed to myself. As residents of the Coachella Valley, we care deeply about our community and take our role as neighbors seriously. We already opened 3 dispensaries locally and have learned a lot about the things that our neighbors believe are priorities. This often goes beyond the obvious things like odor control and overall safety. It includes things like proper communication, noise mitigation, supporting local nonprofits, patronizing neighborhood businesses, and providing jobs for our community. We have put together a neighborhood compatibility plan that will provide assurance to the city that we take our role seriously. Integration into a new neighborhood takes time and commitment to building trust. This is why we focus on hiring locally. That includes contractors in addition to full-time staff. We believe that when you hire 100% of your staff from the community, you will exponentially be more capable of meeting the community's needs. We commit to hiring from directly within the community. Hiring and training our staff is the most important job that we have as retailers. Nobody will ever have higher standards for our employees than ourselves. We spend a great deal of time working with our managers to become great at being managers. As far as hiring a diverse staff is concerned, it is the only way to be successful, in my opinion. Having employees who are a part of the community that you're in, of the community that you wish to be in, is 100% necessary, and we plan on doing just that. All employees of West Coast Cannabis Club have a responsibility to treat others with dignity and respect. All employees are expected to exhibit conduct that reflects inclusion during work, at work functions, on or off the work site, and at all other company-sponsored events. And finally, reducing the impact on minors. Highway 111, Riverdale Lane, and Madison Street are the main paths of travel that surround our location. While there are no sensitive uses near our location, we will focus on these three pathways to ensure that the youth of Indio are not inadvertently exposed to cannabis products or advertising. We will have tasteful signage on the building that won't have cannabis leaves or large green crosses to remain inconspicuous in the neighborhood. Our building will be fully enclosed with no cannabis products visible from the right-of-way. We will work with local schools to identify where the bus stops are so that we can ensure there is no risk of exposure near these stops. We will have a patrol guard drive surrounding area to ensure that nothing from our property can be found in surrounding areas, and a security guard so that they can always be available to walk the exterior. Having a strong connection with our community is a core value of West Coast Cannabis Club, and one of the most important roles is to ensure that our products and advertising never get into the hands of a minor. We are fully committed to making sure that our business is never a distraction to our community or our neighbors. We've identified areas of our community that may have sensitive receptors, such as children and elderly, and in order to ensure that we have done everything we can to eliminate the possible nuisance, we will reach out to the people in those areas. We will encourage them to contact myself, our community relations manager, in case of any issues. That wraps up our presentation today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having us here. We've been working on this for so long, so it's an absolute honor, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Churchill. So I'll go ahead and start with my questions. You said, who's the local owner of your company?
75% of our company is owned by Coachella Valley locals.
And who are those locals?
Myself, Tom Lopez, and our Chief Financial Officer, Josh DeSalle.
And how long have you all been residents?
I've been here for 8 years. Got to be 2018. Same for Josh.
Okay. And how much % equity do you hold within the company between the?
We own 80% of the equity in our entire company.
80%. What % of the profit do you expect to receive from this operation between the three of you?
All of it, I hope.
How much managerial control do you all have collectively?
All of it.
I'll move on to the next question. Describe your community benefits and investment plan in terms of one-time and/or ongoing financial and non-financial investments that your business will make in the Indio community.
Absolutely. So in addition to what we're already doing in this community, we pledged obviously the 6% of our community benefit fee that will come directly off the top, and we have pledged an additional 1% that will go directly to community benefits, and we expect that to be close to $50,000 to $60,000 per year, in addition to what we're already putting into this community from our other local businesses.
Describe your business location and the surrounding area. Discuss why you chose this location. Discuss what improvements you will make to the site and/or building, and how you will ensure that this location is a positive contribution to the surrounding area and to the city.
As far as why we chose it, we believe it's a great opportunity for us to be in kind of the opening corridor of Indio, especially with us having another location on the other side of Highway 111. We didn't see anything that we really liked on the north side of Indio, and downtown was getting a little crowded, and we really wanted a standalone building. And so we think that when we have a standalone building, it helps us from security and not being a nuisance to our area. And so we were able to find a great one with Roger Grace over there. He's been very supportive as a property owner, and we're happy we found that. As far as what we're going to do the property, my partner Tom would be happy to speak to that.
So general description is 80916 Highway 111. It's just to the left of Neal's there, just west of Madison Avenue. And basically, as far as upgrades go, it's going to be complete gut and remodel from the interior, new paint, new signage, all that good stuff. Outside, completely repaint, new lighting, new signage, new Title 24 compliant exit lighting, and then we'll light up some of the back parking lot so that all of our cameras can see both the perimeter and the inside very well. We'll have cameras covering pretty much every occupiable space within the inside of the dispensary, and then we'll also be covering our back areas and the alleyway that leads from Highway 111 into the back parking area, kind of behind Neil's. So we'll be adding some lighting and some camera to those locations. Those cameras will run 24/7 and 365. Other than that, you can see from the pictures, we're going to add some landscaping around the edge there where we can on the sidewalk, and just kind of beautify that, upgrade the gates and stuff that lead to the back, and then add some grass and some greenery in the back area just to kind of clean it up a little bit. It's a little denty back there.
Thank you.
Can you put the screen back to whoever's controlling the screen, please stop taking it off our screens.
I don't.
No,
yeah.
it's not you.
Okay.
It's somebody behind the window.
I have a tendency to break things.
But can you put it back on the existing building facade?
Oh, are you asking me? Sorry.
Whoever's controlling the
So
screen.
we just got to go backwards then. So right here.
Oh, okay. I just want to let you know that that sign that he has right now is a vintage sign from original Indio.
Mm-hmm.
If you can somehow incorporate it, that would be nice.
Oh, incorporated as in like just, I would love, so we did slightly change it on our rendering there
Right.
to have just the WCCC monogram. Is that
Would-
similar to
that's
what you're
fine.
thinking?
That's fine, but
Yeah.
that shape is retro.
Oh, I love it. We'll keep it the same. That's even cheaper.
And that's what I'm trying to let you know. We're trying to keep the retro
Yes,
that was
ma'am.
here from the 60s and 50s.
Okay.
I love that approach. Anytime we can do that, I think it's great. Sometimes with the renderings, we get a little excited just to get the landlords excited about what happens to the building. But especially with that corridor of Highway 111, we know how much work you guys have going into that area. We wouldn't want to take away from the vision that the city has for that at all.
And there was some topics you didn't touch on the mayor's last
Okay.
question. How many parking spaces do you have for this site?
We have 10 fully dedicated, and there's over 30 in that back parking lot with Neil's that we have some overflow with, which for us, we believe is more than enough, but we'd be happy to look into some other options if the city feels like we need any overflow.
Well, Neil's has already approached us that they do not have enough parking spaces, so it is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, well, Neil's, the good news for us in that regard, where I can't really speak for them, is a lot of their business traffic does tend to come at a time where we won't even be open, which I think will be an advantage for us. But again, we do have 10 of our own parking spots, which I think we'll be able to handle the customer flow without having to use Neil's. But I've talked to the owners over there, and we're very open to finding ways that we can maybe even talk with Midas and maybe find a way to kind of open some of that up and maybe redo the parking. I have to hesitate to speak for other people's businesses. I'd like to work with them to try to see if there's a way that we can make it a little smoother for everybody. Well, there's a bunch of ways we can make it smoother for everybody. We just got to get everybody cooperative on that.
Right, and that's been a goal of ours for some time now, to have Midas and, is that Circle K or 76?
Yeah, yeah.
Have them get rid of the walls between the properties.
So unnecessary.
It's so unnecessary, and just make it all one continuous project.
Well, I'll be your ally there
Thank
because
you.
I'm on the same
Just
side.
FYI.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the betterment of that center.
Agreed.
Okay, and Mayor, do you want to call on someone for questions now, or do you want me to continue? Wayman, did you have something specific?
Yeah, it's just one. I appreciate you answering those questions prior to us getting there. I just want you to touch on security at the door, because although you mentioned that some of the hours between West Coast and Neil's will be different, they do serve alcoholic beverages on their
Correct.
premises. How would you prohibit folks who are intoxicated coming into your business?
It's 100% training. And so luckily I've worked in restaurants and bars for my entire life. And so the first thing that we need to do is just train the entire staff on how to notice that somebody is intoxicated. And then we absolutely cut people off. That's honestly, even without Neil's, that's something that you're going to run into pretty consistently. And we believe that we've got a very well-trained staff, and we've got training in place to make sure that if somebody's coming in intoxicated, if they're stumbling, they don't need to be there at that time. And so we would essentially cut that customer off and have them come back at a later date.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your presentation. I have no further questions.
Thank you. I want to keep on the line of the building. So what is your arrangement for the building? Is it a lease or a buy?
We have a 10-year and 2-3 extensions. He's open to buy, or he would love us to buy.
I know.
He just is he's a little unrealistic on his asking price. So
That's Roger.
yeah, he wants to make sure he's retiring off that building, and so I think it's easier for all of us if he's retiring off of a monthly rent than a significant purchase price.
And you didn't mention, are you going to have a lounge?
We are not.
No lounge, okay. So what type of outreach did you do? Did you have like a radius that you reached out to?
300 feet, we worked with Roger and we talked to Niels, we talked to the motel owner, we knocked on a few doors, we weren't getting a lot of response, but for us, like I said, you guys know we've been here, people know that we've been working on Indio for a long time, we've been very vocal about our location and everything that we're doing there, that won't stop, we'll continue that outreach starting in 3 or 4 hours.
And how many employees do you anticipate having?
About 20.
Now, you didn't mention anything about unions, so,
We have a signed LPA with the UFCW.
okay. And then what is your diversity policy? You touched it, but you didn't really explain it.
Yeah, I mean, less of a policy and more of it's just the way that we like to do business. I mean, our majority of our managerial staff is female. We have a significant amount of our staff that's people of color, LGBTQ. I mean, I don't like to have a policy because to me, in a sense, that means that's just not who you are naturally. I think we've been able to create a very diverse company without having to go out to try to do it. We just hire the best people that we can. And in a community like Coachella Valley, you end up with a pretty diverse community. And so if it ever felt like we needed to take any stances, we would. But for us, we are 100% believe that we operate as a better company and we're better for our community if the people who work for us properly represent the people who are going to be coming into our store.
And you're not a seed to sale, right?
We are.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, we have the KESQ building in Palm Desert, right behind Harv's Car Wash. It's 35,000 square feet. About 90% of what we create goes into our own stores. About 10% goes off into other vertically integrated companies. And about 50% of our sales are our own products. And then, 20% are Stizzies, and then we got everybody else.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Would you like to ask your questions?
The same thing. Your facility was the first one I ever toured when we had the ribbon cutting, and then you showed us your
that was an impressive day. COVID 3 days later.
Yes, it was very interesting.
Those were the days.
So you've been very successful, and you're going to continue to go forward in Indio. How do you feel that's going to fit into your portfolio, and how do you think that will do with saturation? Because you already have 3 in the area. Do you think you can foresee that your products will be sold at the goal that you're thinking?
100%. I think this will be our busiest location. I think the Highway 111 opportunity for us is really great. We obviously are having kind of La Quinta off to the side there. I do think brings a separate side to us. Don't tell them I didn't say that, but I do think it gives us a little bit of a different side of the desert than when I think the other competition has. And for us, I mean, we've had this conversation. Obviously, that's the first thing an investor asks, right? Like, do you really want a 4th? And the truth for us is somebody's going to have it, and so I want it, first of all. And second of all, we've always wanted to be in Indio. We've been coming from day one. This has been something that we really wanted. And so I'm not in Palm Springs, right? Because I think that they have muddied the opportunity to be successful there. I'm not in DHS, I'm sorry, but we haven't found that option, but we went after Indio. This was obviously a big goal of ours. We always wanted to be here.
Yeah, we're at 100,000 people, and we'll have another 30,000 coming, and we have our concerts, and we have our
We're exactly
fair,
a mile up the street from the Coachella Fairground campgrounds, so I think we've got a unique opportunity in that location.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Elaine.
Elaine, any questions?
Thank you, I do not. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for bringing up the information there on Niels and the parking. It sounds like it's totally under control, but the same thoughts were going through my head. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Next up, Embark.
Oh, linen does not fare well in sitting. Sorry about that, y'all. I'll wait for the presentation.
Or do you want me to just get started? Okay, okay. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present before you today. I also want to quickly thank city staff for their excellent leadership throughout this process. My name is Lauren Carpenter, and I'm the founder and CEO of Embark. Given time constraints with 8 minutes, I will be presenting on behalf of our entire group. But joining me today are our partners and local owners, Alexis and Chuck, as well as our Chief Compliance Officer, and my husband, Dustin Moore. So we're thrilled to have this opportunity to present before you today. We're ready. So I got ahead of ourselves, but there are beautiful faces. As you can see here, this collective team brings vast experience across nearly every relevant sector to operate a highly regulated business. Our team's background and experience spans emerging industries such as technology and social media platforms, highly regulated industries including healthcare, banking, food and beverage, and energy, consumer-facing industries including Fortune 500 retailers, a number of scaled cannabis retail platforms in California, and finally, Chuck's multi-decade work as a labor leader in the labor movement in Indio throughout the region and at the state level. To further explore our residency and qualifications, we are local. So we are approximately 60%, actually 60.1% owned by local residents in Alexis and Chuck. Alexis was born and raised in the Coachella Valley and has lived in Indio since she was 8 years old. Excuse me. And Chuck has lived in Riverside County since 1980 and in Indio for about 2 years now. So we're thrilled to be joined by our partners, Alexis and Chuck, both of whom obviously have deep roots here. Our local partners bring decades of combined leadership and engagement in Indio and beyond. Notably, Alexis has spent a number of years engaging constituents throughout the county in her day job, and Chuck has been a respected leader in organized labor in the Valley and beyond for decades, bringing a true expertise in workforce development and employee empowerment to our proposal. Embark has partnered with these local residents and leaders to marry their localism with our proven operational model, an approach we take in each of the communities we serve. Embark is a locally and state licensed cannabis retailer in 8 California communities today, with 7 additional shops in entitlement or construction. This ensures we are a proven operator that has demonstrated we possess the skills and experience necessary to operate such a highly regulated business. I am proud of our track record of operations in each of the communities we serve, generating millions of dollars in annual tax revenues and hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual community benefits investment. We are also a proudly unionized employer, ensuring our employees are represented by the United Food and Commercial Workers in each of our stores today. Importantly, though, our team also includes experts in design, entitlement, and development. We've been the first of our cohort of licensees to open in all but one of our existing markets. And why I believe that's so important is because it's one thing to win a license, and it's another to open and operate that business. And what we bring before you is a track record of doing that quickly, efficiently, and in partnership with community. Shifting gears to neighborhood compatibility and location, we are proposing to operate at 45835 Town Street in the downtown neighborhood zone. It is appropriately zoned and outside the buffer for all sensitive uses. It is an approximately 2,250 square foot standalone building, affording us total control over the entirety of the parcel, which is a benefit for security purposes. It is sufficiently parked and has appropriate ingress and egress to ensure no negative impacts to the neighborhood. For us, taking a step back for a moment, though, the cornerstone of neighborhood compatibility planning really starts with strategic location selection. Our team engaged in significant community outreach at the outset of this process and learned of the city's significant investment efforts into downtown. So like another of other operators today, we really saw this as an opportunity to work in partnership with you to advance broader goals. As policy nerds, we studied Indio's downtown-specific plan, and we felt that this location could play a role in advancing these broader goals, while also being appropriately and sensitively located such that we weren't too front and center, but easily accessible for all. In particular, we are enthused about the opportunity to partner with the College of the Desert, both on workforce development opportunities and on apprenticeships, and we have met with their leadership throughout this process to earn their support. Also critical to neighborhood compatibility are these 3 pillars: accessibility and accountability, proactive community and neighborhood outreach, and ensuring that our business ultimately creates benefits for our neighbors. Looking to compatibility and accessibility, at this point, I think it feels a little redundant, but I, like all of the other operators, have put forward a robust plan that ensures that us as owners and the business at large are accountable and accessible to neighbors and to the community at all times. This includes things like 24/7, 365 contact information that's provided to the police department, the neighborhood, the community at large, and to all of you. Ongoing and regular meetings with the city, police department, and neighbors as needed. Robust systems and processes that are in place to address community questions, comments, and concerns. A log of all inbound communications and how we've used our 5-point plan to address them that can be audited at any time by the city, police department, or our community advisory board. And ongoing canvassing, planned open houses, and much more. The second pillar of our approach is proactive community and neighborhood outreach. So we initiated this outreach early last year and have continued that drumbeat of engagement since, all with a goal of trying to understand how we could put forth a proposal that reflected this community's unique needs and priorities. I have had more than 100 one-on-one meetings and conversations with community members to really ensure that I had my finger on the pulse of sentiment, and our team has gone canvassing door to door and has earned the support and support letters from more than 50 of the folks in our surrounding area, many of whom are really excited, like others, for the opportunities for things like increased security and beautification. The final pillar I touched on was creating benefits for our neighbors, and Embark, like all of the operators before you today, is proposing to be a net benefit, both to the immediately surrounding neighborhood and to the community at large. It's hard to detail all of the ways that I believe these businesses can be a positive force in community, but I think those that most resonated with our neighbors are really focused on security, beautification, and our good neighbor policy. So like others, security is at the forefront of our business, both to ensure the safety of our employees, but also for the community at large. We'll have nearly 50 security cameras covering every inch of the parcel, a direct live feed into the police department for monitoring, and really we pride ourselves on creating true partnership with police departments in the communities where we operate so that we can have an ongoing feedback loop so that there are never any surprises. What we've proposed contemplates a meaningful reimagination of this building. As I mentioned, it is a standalone building, which is our preference, given it allows us total control over the four walls of the building. But we have proposed significant lighting, re-landscaping, and meaningful tenant improvements to really bring that building from the 60s back to life. Finally, like other operators, we've developed a voluntary good neighbor policy that we propose be included as a condition of our approval. This policy is intended to govern our operations and ensure total accountability to the community at large. So I tried to be quick there with the 8-minute timeline, but in conclusion, I think one of the things that really sets us apart is when you pick up the phone and you have an issue, you get me or one of the other owners on the line. So with cannabis coming to community, it's new, it's exciting, sometimes it can be scary, and our commitment is to always be accessible to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I'll go ahead and get started with the questions. Okay. First, can you please state again the local owners of your company?
Yes, so Alexis Perez, who's right there, and Chuck McDaniel, who's right there. Alexis owns 50.1%, and Chuck owns 10%. And Dustin and I split the remaining 39.9. And profits will be split in accordance with those.
And how long have each of them been Indio residents? Can you?
So Alexis has been a resident since she was 8 years old, so not to age her, but we're getting close to
Just
3
years.
So a very sufficient amount of time, so approximately 2.5, 3 decades here. Chuck's been in Riverside County since 1980, but in Indio for over a year.
And how much managerial control will they have?
Well, we were talking about staffing at lunch right before we came here. So this is, I think, like perhaps some of the operators in the room, this is really a partnership. What does Embark bring? We bring the sort of proven operational experience, the SOPs, the best practices, and what this team brings is an unparalleled knowledge of their community. And so they certainly will have operational controls because ultimately this business is a reflection of who they are in their communities. But our role is to help and assist in ensuring that the business maintains, for example, compliance or, the operational controls it needs. So they will be our partners and we will work in partnership to make business decisions. And then really, the cornerstone of an effective retail operation is having a killer retail leadership team. So ultimately what the four of us will do is pick an amazing store leadership team who will drive a lot of the day-to-day operations of the business. They will then have oversight from the four of us as owners.
Thank you. Move on to our next question. Please describe your community benefits and investment plan in terms of one-time and/or ongoing financial and non-financial investments that your business will make in the Indio community.
Okay, I'm very passionate about this part. I'm very talkative, so you just cut me off if I've given you too much information here. So in each of the communities where Embark operates, we create a community advisory board. And the goal of that is that it is not me sitting at a desk, deciding what the community's priorities are. It is the community that is empowered to drive that decision making. So what we do is, obviously we've committed to 6% of gross receipts to the city, and we've committed an additional 1% of gross receipts, not net, to our community advisory board. And it goes into a community investment fund that is directed by these local residents. So Chuck will be the chair of that board. Alexis will also sit on that board. I am effectively staff to that board. It's a very glamorous job. And what we do is we really partner with these community leaders to decide where those funds go. We included in our proposal a handful of, I would say, themes that are the areas where our group has identified a desire to make the most impact. And those themes are in workforce development and apprenticeships and in youth drug education and prevention. So I want to be clear that that does not mean those are the only things that we will focus on, because our community advisory board is given the sole authority to make the decisions around where these funds go. But we believe it's incumbent upon all operators to engage in meaningful youth drug education and prevention. And so we are in conversations with a number of youth servicing nonprofits around how we could partner to do that. And then in terms of apprenticeship and workforce development, we have spent a lot of time engaged with College of the Desert. It started, given our proximity, we wanted to make sure there was no heartburn there. But what's grown from that, I think, is this really beautiful desire to create or build on the work of other folks that have been doing this work for a long time to create very meaningful workforce development specific to our industry. Obviously, having Chuck and his multi-decade leadership in organized labor is huge in that. And we are also working with the United Food and Commercial Workers at the state level on an apprenticeship program. So the goal is that a lot of this really sort of sews all of that together into a hyper-local ongoing workforce development program.
Thank you.
I just want to inform you, we have a youth advisory council, and they're very active in campaigns for youth. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if they were somehow a resource for your board when they consider community outreach.
We completely agree, and we actually, in the application, held a few spots on the community advisory board. We didn't think it was appropriate to do outreach to certain city-affiliated organizations until after this process, but we've held a number of seats so that we can ensure that those voices are represented at the table. We never try and be, look, in all ways, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to amplify the work of things that are already working. And so I think that's part of the goal of having community members at the table as we do this, is to ensure that we're really plugging into the areas that are, or the groups and organizations that are already making impact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is, please describe your business location and the surrounding area. Discuss why you chose this location. Discuss what improvements you will be making to the site and or building, and how you will ensure that this location is a positive contribution to the surrounding area and to the city.
Absolutely. Okay, so I kind of touched on this. So we started, I call it a kind of a listening tour. We started a listening tour in the community before we selected a location. And the goal with that was really to try and identify where would the community be comfortable with this business being located. And that's what drove us to the downtown plan, and it was sort of through that analysis that we thought this was, it was a location that was part of this broader reimagination of downtown, but without putting the business so front and center, because there were some community members that were a little squeamish about that as we were talking about it. So we identified 45835 Town Street, which is you could throw a rock probably and hit it. Because it is on a corner, again, it affords us the ability to have total control of the parcel, which we believe is very helpful for security purposes. And because ultimately, while it requires meaningful investment into tenant improvements, it is not sort of a wholesale reconstruction, which we thought was important given our commitment to the community to try and get open quickly. What we've proposed contemplates like meaningful reimagination of landscaping and lighting so that it is restored to being a more attractive facility. Did I answer all of the questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Felt
you.
like I might have missed one.
Mr. Furman?
You mentioned security, and first of all, I appreciate the cameras in that area because we talked about the surrounding area. And I want to just talk about security. Is it armed that you have it on premises?
So we work with the police department, each community where we operate, to adhere to their preference. So we have stores that do have armed guards and we have stores that don't. I will share my preference is not to have armed. I think it's a opportunity for escalation, and from my perspective, you can take all of my product before you harm our employees. But again, we 100% will work with the city and police department to do whatever is of desire.
How many employees will be at this location?
We anticipate starting with between 29 and 39 initial employees, and then obviously that will scale as the business progresses. So, our pro forma contemplates potentially growing to 60.
Okay. And I appreciate the engagement and relationship with the college and the apprenticeship programs. This is downtown, so you have the expansion of College of the Desert and Child Development Center in close proximity. So can you speak to any kind of filtration system that you have at this location?
Yeah, so yes, and I will first say, understanding the planned expansion, particularly with the youth center, was really what drove us to sit down and meet with College of the Desert probably more than a year ago now. And while she's since transitioned, I'm really proud that we earned the support of Ms. Garcia because of our commitment to ensuring that no youth are accessing this facility and that we are engaging in meaningful youth drug education and prevention efforts. In terms of the experience, it's much like other folks have described. So there are security guards that are preventing access. The camera is obviously also preventing access. We have a redundant vestibule such that you aren't getting into the facility until your ID has been checked. So between our physical infrastructure and our standard operating procedures, there's no way that youth would access the facility.
Now, I understand that. I'm asking the filtration system for smell mitigation.
For smell.
Yeah.
So we are not proposing a lounge, and so because we are retail only, that dramatically reduces the impact of smell since everything arrives to us fully packaged. But we use sort of best-in-class, charcoal filtrations and the like to ensure that smells aren't radiating beyond the facility.
Okay, that's it, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. So you say you have other locations. Where are your other locations?
All right, you're testing me. South Lake Tahoe, Alameda, Martinez, Fairfield, Fresno, Sacramento, Redwood City, and Chico. If folks will let us, we're opening in Ventura in short order, and then we have 7 additional stores that are across the state that are coming online. This is the furthest south that we will be, and we are very excited about the opportunity to potentially make our way all the way down here.
So this is a whole different market than what you're used to. So what's going to make you successful so far? What's going to make you successful here in the city of Indio?
I think every market where we operate is different, candidly. In South Lake Tahoe, we are across the street from the gondola, if you're familiar. So that's a fundamentally different market, and who we service within that market is different than who the shop 10 miles away services. In Fresno, it looks fundamentally different than, for example, that experience. So I think candidly, every market is unique, and that's why it's so critical to hire locally. It's why it's so critical to have local partners. Again, having local ownership is not something we've done for the purposes of this application. It is intrinsic to our business model and something we have in every location. And so I'm confident that we will absolutely be able to meet the moment here.
Do you go from seed to sell? Do you have your own product, or you utilize other individuals' products?
So we intentionally, and this is awkward because everybody else is taking a different approach, so this is no disrespect to everyone else's business model, but when we started our company, we intentionally focused exclusively on retail and not on every component of the supply chain. I had previously worked at a very large and at one time prominent cannabis retail operation that scaled to be a mile wide and an inch deep, and ultimately not super successful at any component of the supply chain because they were trying to own all of the supply chain. And so for me, I took that as a lesson learned in starting this company, that I really wanted to be laser focused on the relationship with the consumer. We enjoy wonderful working relationships with suppliers that supply all of our stores. We are very focused on ensuring that those are meaningful partnerships that are mutually beneficial with our suppliers, and we certainly have had no issues in terms of product availability. But what I do think it allows us to do is, instead of focusing on perhaps suggesting a customer purchase our product because it is ours, we're able to really focus on a customer purchasing whichever of our brand partners we believe is best suited for their needs.
And then lastly, obviously, Indio's the question on my mind. Obviously, this is the furthest you've been, obviously not even in Riverside County as of now. So why Indio? You have all these other locations throughout all these other cities. Why would you come to Indio?
A couple reasons. Despite having 100,000 residents, when you come here, it still feels like a small town where I would go and sit and talk with someone and they'd say, well, have you talked to so-and-so? I worked with her 20 years ago. And so guess what? Then I'd schedule a meeting with so-and-so and I'd hear her perspective. And I think that's really, that's our sweet spot. Our business model isn't focused on being the biggest in the country or, taking over the world. Our business model is focused on creating the deepest and most meaningful partnerships with community that we can. And that's how we succeed. And so I think this is a community, irrespective of where it is in California, where folks know their neighbors. And that's a community that we want to be a part of. And it's a community where we feel like our community advisory board and investment fund approach can be very successful. Separately, we also have an event company called Embark Events. And Embark Events is the concessionaire of record for some of the largest music festivals in the world that have chosen to integrate legal licensed cannabis sales and consumption into their events. So, for example, in San Francisco, in 2 very short weeks, we will be hosting Grasslands at Outside Lands, which is a 200,000 person music festival. And so for us, we didn't propose consumption. We were really focused on just being a community-centric retailer in this community, but we saw this as an opportunity, given our expertise and experience in the rapidly emerging and shifting event space, and given the fact that this community has so embraced events as part of its DNA, we saw it as an opportunity to appropriately and sensitively and over time, baby step into conversations around what responsible cannabis at events could look like here as well.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you for your presentation. Can you speak to the diversity in your employment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like most others, more than 70% of our staff identify as diverse. And I think what's really important and what I'm really proud of is we are not just focused on diversity at the staff level, we are also very focused on diversity in ownership. It's one thing to be an employee, it's another thing to be an owner of the business. And so as you look to our local partners in each of the communities where we serve, more than 80% of those folks are also come from diverse backgrounds and experiences. And I think that's important because it's continuing to change the face of what business ownership in cannabis looks like.
And let's talk about the building a little bit as far as what your commitment has been. Is it a lease? Is it a buy?
Yeah, lease.
I got to turn to...
I believe it's a 10-year with 2 5-year options or 5 with 3 5 years. I just don't have that.
That's okay.
But we do have a binding lease in place.
All right, I think everyone else asked every other question on the list. Thank you very much.
Ms. Holmes, anything to add?
Thank you, I'm good.
All right, thank you.
No questions.
Thank you.
So next up is OTC Indio. I was going to wait for the slides, but I'll go and click through them once they're up. My name's Sean Maddox. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer for OTC Indio LLC and Off the Charts in general. I'd like to thank the Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members for having us here today. And as everybody else, I'd like to thank city staff for the incredible work they did. I think it really shows with the competent operators that you guys have seen here today, and probably the redundancy in my presentation because so many industry best practices have been spoken to before me. And these are industry best practices that we intend to incorporate into our business as we have in all the other locations that we currently have operational. Off the Charts is a family-owned and operated cannabis business. I think we're really unique in that.
owners, Norman and Darlene Youssef, started the business in Vista, California 6 years ago and have since expanded their humble 1-store to an 11-store retail chain in California, with 19 more stores coming in California and 7 out-of-state locations coming in the next 2 years. The expansion is really just a testament to the family environment that the Youssefs have created, not only at the store level, but also in the communities that they operate in. And it's really shown in the success that they had in all the locations that they've opened so far. Speaking specifically to the owners on the board for the OTC Indio LLC, Norman Youssef has over 6 years of cannabis experience. He's the CEO of Off the Charts. He started this. He's got experience in regulated retail, used to operate smoke shops, and then also has family history in convenience store operations, so alcohol and similarly regulated retail. Norman's kind of the A to Z guy. He oversees real estate development, real estate acquisition, and then he oversees all the managers of all the locations. Norman's involved on a day-to-day basis. He visits all of the stores routinely. He'll even get behind the sales desk every once in a while. When they opened up Vista, he was operating the sales floor, doing back of house, and has since not been able to do that in having to manage so many stores, but he still, I think, embodies the commitment to the customers and the store and that family environment. Darlene Youssef is the Chief Operating Officer. She is the back of house and backbone of the business. An amazing female owner in the cannabis industry. She does everything from HR, accounts payable, vendor and brand relationships, pricing, marketing, advertising, you name it. She's done it at one point, and she still has some input given the importance of this business being a family-owned and operated company. Another owner, Kika Keith, she's our Community Relations Officer, really in charge of our diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Kika is known to most people in the industry and has been an absolute stalwart in the social equity community and really advocacy throughout the state. She has been in the industry for over 15 years and then tried to open a retail location in Los Angeles when Los Angeles first opened their social equity program. Had a lot of issues and exposed a lot of issue with Los Angeles' social equity program. She and her partner at Social Equity Owners and Workers Association were responsible for adding 100 additional social equity licenses in Los Angeles. She's up in the state capitol at least twice a month working on advocacy up there. And she's really taken kind of the family-owned and operated health and wellness model, and by being a partner with Off the Charts has helped us bridge social equity and making sure diversity and equity is a huge part of what we do. I myself, Sean Maddox, Chief Compliance Officer. I am a practicing attorney. I operate a compliance firm, Green Consulting Partners, as well as a legal firm, Maddox Law. We've been serving the industry for over 7 years now across the country and within California. We've worked with over 50 clients to get 200 licenses across 10 plus states. And really the advantage of that we've been able to incorporate into Off the Charts is developing industry best practices. As you guys know, in California, each jurisdiction has their own set of regulations. Each state has their own set of regulations. So working with operators, including Off the Charts, to develop standard operating procedures has allowed us to incorporate those industry best practices and develop and evolve with the industry as it's changed across the country and within the state. How do I go? There we go. Next, with respect to neighborhood compatibility, I hope to not be a broken record because you guys have heard this all before, but Kika Keith is our Community Relations Officer. As I spoke earlier, she's got an amazing history in advocacy and community outreach, and it's one of our largest advantages in coming into a new community. Outreach is early and often. I think we've heard that quite a few times today, but that involves canvassing the community once we've locked down a location, then as soon as we've gotten the entitlement, making sure that we're sending out mailers and doing a second round of outreach to the local community, holding quarterly meetings with community members, having an open house prior to opening as we're getting closer to starting operations to get a better understanding of all of our neighbors' concerns, not only 12 months, 14 months ahead of time, but 6 weeks before we're opening our doors so they can see the site, they can see the improvements, and they can have some, I think, input on what we're doing as we're getting closer to opening. In terms of nuisance mitigation, a lot of this is just industry best practices, right? We've got noise control policies, which go down to having a lobby and a queuing system to make sure that we don't have overflow traffic. We've got an on-site security guard that monitors the site 24 hours a day, and roving security throughout all hours of operation to make sure that we've got no loitering and excess noise. We've got a lighting plan that ensures adequate lighting throughout the facility and the exterior, and also ensures that there's no spillage. I'm pretty sure we'll be paying for a very expensive photometric plan when we submit to the city, as we always do. Odor control plan, which incorporates best in practice procedures. Negative pressurization, HVAC, I've heard it asked earlier today, but standard carbon filtration. Negative pressurization essentially means that your building is a vacuum. So you open a door, air comes in, it doesn't go out. The only air leaving the facility is going to go through an activated carbon filter. Traffic, we've got a great location. We're not in a very heavily trafficked area, and it's intentional. We're on a side street. We have adequate parking, which should allow us to control traffic and not have a nuisance due to traffic. Patron conduct and public consumption, we have policies and training procedures to make sure that our staff can recognize when a customer might be impaired, and we have elevation protocols under those scenarios. We've also got a roving security guard to monitor that around the facility. Graffiti and urban blight, 2 to 3 times a day we're doing exterior sweeps to make sure that there's no trash, making sure there's no graffiti or any, impairments on the building to ensure that we're being a good neighbor. Anything's addressed immediately. It's part of our family-owned and operated aspect that it's a smaller business, so similar to what Embark said, if you call somebody, you're going to hear one of the owners within 1 or 2 phone calls, and we're extremely accountable and in the community. Another thing that's important to us is signage and presence. So unlike a lot of stores, we don't have big, green leaves as part of our branding. It's very subtle, intentionally to kind of protect youth and avoid, just being a big neon sign for cannabis. Lastly, complaint response and outreach. Again, it comes down to being a family-owned and operated business. We're all accountable. We're all involved in the operations. So, with early outreach and getting a hold of neighbors and the community members, typically we hear about a complaint before it arises to the level of ever getting to a city member. And that's been an essential aspect of our success. We have multiple stores that are, abutting residential or across an alleyway for a residence, and we've never had a problem with any of them just because of that level of communication. Diversity and inclusion, I'll get into it more when asked, but essentially Kika Keith and what she's done in the community has allowed us to incorporate industry best practices on that. And then youth protection plan, I think this is extremely important. We have many mechanisms to ensure that from our purchasing to our ID verification and many other aspects of our standard operating procedures that we're not exposing youth to cannabis use. We monitor purchase limits. We look for individuals who are purchasing certain products over and over again, are coming into the store and reaching daily maximums 2 to 3 times a week, because we usually figure out very quickly that those guys are going and reselling to the community. Beyond that, we reach out to the community, whether it's local PTA, DARE, and things of that nature to help develop public education on youth exposures and the danger of youth usage of cannabis in the community. Lastly, just quickly on the proposed location, the site is 45794 Salton Street in Indio, about 2 to 3 blocks away from here. It's strategically located in kind of a industrial business area. Most of our neighbors are mechanic shops. We do have 2 small apartment complexes across the street from us. And again, our experience operating other facilities, abutting residential or nearby, should be essential in ensuring that we're not a negative impact on those. As you guys can see on the bottom of this slide, we've cleared all sensitive uses, which is part of the reason for picking this site. And another thing that I alluded to earlier, I think the importance of this location is that it is removed. We're not downtown purposefully. We think that what we do in terms of a business and our business model attracts people, and we don't need to be in somewhere that's heavily trafficked and 10-year-old kids are going down to get ice cream with their family. We're removed intentionally so that we're not having that impact on the community. Go back to this slide so you guys can see the existing site. It is an automotive repair, and in speaking to neighbors, we heard plenty of complaints about parked vehicles, it being overparked with vehicles that aren't being attended to. So one of the nice things that we'll be able to do is come in and redo the entire facility. You'll see it's adequately fenced right now, which is really nice for security purposes. This next slide just shows some of the proposed site improvements. But really it's just a whole facility rehabilitation. So restuccoing, adding some wood siding, getting a mural that will be approved through the city. And just, I think, creating something in this neighborhood that it desperately needs. This is kind of outside the main corridor of town, so I think it's an afterthought. And so unlike a lot of the presentations you heard today, we're not coming into a place that's already up and coming. We're going to a place that we hope to help make up and coming, and we hope to have that impact. And that's essentially an aspect of our neighborhood compatibility as well. So that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So first question, who is the local owner in your company?
Unlike everybody else, we are the only group today without a local owner.
No local owner. Okay. We'll move on to the next section. Please describe your community benefits and investment plan in terms of one-time and/or ongoing financial and non-financial investments that your business will make in the Indio community.
So part of our overall plan includes a 5% gross revenue to the city. We also have 1% gross revenue dedicated to community benefits, and that'll be local nonprofits and community organizations. Right now, we're projecting those numbers to kind of be somewhere around $500,000 to the city and close to $100,000 to local community organizations. Aside from that, I think, something that was discussed by everybody else is employment, offering stable jobs. We have, I think, industry best benefits, but, steady jobs, high-paying jobs to the community. We're projecting anywhere between 25 to 30 at launch and upwards of 40 employees at this site, with somewhere around $1.5 to $1.8 million in annual payroll. So I think that, that in and of itself is a community benefit. And then I think one thing that's important to note, we do have a list of community organizations that we've already reached out to and have established contact with, but important for us, especially without having that local tie, is really the outreach that's going to happen over the next 12 months as we try to get open and really trying to understand the community. We've done enough of these presentations and applications where, yeah, you can Google all these organizations and it sounds great, but what we found is most effective is the outreach and the listening. And when you're hiring employees, oh yeah, this is, a community organization that my mom works with and they're amazing. This is what they do. So I think having that openness to developing those relationships has been essential to our success in other cities. Again, we've got multiple organizations that we've already tagged, but I think it's unique to us that being a part of the city involves operating in the city and listening to the city, and through quarterly meetings with neighbors and city council members, that's how we think that we can have the most impact through our community benefits investments.
Thank you. Second question, please describe your business location and the surrounding area. Discuss why you chose this location. Discuss what improvements you will make to the site and/or building, and how you will ensure that this location is a positive contribution to the surrounding area and to the city of Indio.
So I've touched on this a little bit. I'll show on the map again here. We're right off of Highway 111, just north of Highway 11 and south of Indio Boulevard on Salton Street. It's a little bit removed from the central commercial corridors of the town, and that's done with intention to ensure that we're not having an impact and we're not exposing populations to cannabis. It's a unique site. It's about a half-acre site that we have control of the entire site. The building itself is 4,000 square feet. The reason we picked it beyond kind of strategic location for nuisance mitigation purposes also comes down to the impact that we can have on the neighborhood. Being in a place that's not up and coming, but having a facility that we're going to do a complete rehabilitation on, bringing security to a neighborhood that's already underserved and things like that, we think that will have the most impact with this location. Something that multiple other individuals mentioned today is having a standalone building, so you're not dealing with neighbors, so that you are in control of your entire facility. It's a security issue, and it also just comes down to maintaining good neighborhood policies, traffic control, parking, and all of those things. From a parking perspective, we've got 24 spaces. It's very adequately parked for the intended use. And then in terms of, I think, the overall upgrade that we're doing, I'll pull back on the slides. We've got a complete facade rehabilitation, removal of the cars, repaving of the parking lot, restriping of the parking lot, a complete landscape overhaul, which includes adding new planter beds. Obviously out here, we've got to be California native drought tolerant, but also incorporating, desert boulders and things that you see, throughout the community to be cohesive. And again, I think the biggest aspect of this location is just our ability to impact a community that's somewhat overlooked within the city. Did I miss anything?
No, it's good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Furman?
I just have a couple of quick questions. Thank you for your presentation. One is, can you, you said you have approximately 40 employees going into this location?
So we expect 25 to 30 at opening, upwards of 40.
Upwards to 40, okay. And are these unionized employees or are you unionized?
So if we have over 20 when we open, we'll be signing an LPA with UFCW as we do at our other locations that exceed 20 per state requirements.
How many other locations do you have? I'm sorry,
We
I missed
have
that.
11 active in California.
And you said you're hiring third-party security. Is that armed, unarmed,
Armed.
patrolled?
Armed. We work with Armor Tech Security. They service both of our operations in Palm Springs. We've got a location on Palm Canyon as well as William Roads in Palm Springs.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Miller? Yes.
Same questions I asked the other ones. What makes you successful? Obviously, you're in multiple jurisdictions, including multiple states. What's made your brand and your products grow? And then also, are you from seed to sell, or do you purchase it from other individuals?
So, like Embark, we're different than the others. We're not seed to sale. And I think that what makes us successful is focusing on retail, but more importantly, it's the family owned and managed. I think that it comes across to all of our consumers, it comes across to all of our employees. You'll walk into a store and it's just this family environment. It's not stuffy, it's not overly corporate, it's the cheers of cannabis. You come in, everybody knows your name, everybody takes care of you, and I think there's that relationship building and being a part of the community that's been really important to our success. And then beyond that, Darlene and Norman come from a regulated retail background, and so their retail model is typically high volume, lower margin, and that drives a lot of sales. So, we're probably more of your BevMo of cannabis, where, we're going to attract a lot of people because we have such a broad product selection. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to peddle our own product and say, hey, buy this because we get a better margin. It's, hey, buy this because you like it, and we have it. And I think because of the volume that we do, we've been able to establish really great relationship with brands and vendors and get product at lower prices than other stores, which allows us to pass those savings on to consumers.
And so why Indio? I mean, obviously some of the other ones, but you're in an area with 2 other vendors. We're bringing 5 in. We've had no cannabis in Indio except for delivery from other, dispensaries out of the city of Indio, obviously. So they've got a kind of a threshold. What makes you think you're going to be successful in Indio?
I think Palm Springs really speaks to our ability to be successful in Indio. We've got 2 stores in Palm Springs, which is an extremely saturated market. We've got a great relationship with the city. We pay a lot of taxes because we generate probably the most revenue of any stores at both of our locations. And what we've seen, similar to what was said by Stizzy, is we've got a lot of people that are driving all the way to Palm Springs just to get our product for our selection, for our pricing, and all of those things. And so, since the day we've opened, we've had customers come in and say, hey, dude, come to Indio. We'd love to work for you. We'd love you to be in our community. It works. So I think those are the reasons that really dragged us out here. And I think, the overall business model is what sets us apart. We're not vertically integrated. We can create an environment that really is intended to service the consumer as opposed to drive profit margin.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you for your presentation. Would you please dive deeper into your outreach as far as what you've done to date? Did you go through a certain radius, or did you just do neighborhood walks?
We did neighborhood walks in 2 blocks in either direction and handed out pamphlets. I didn't post a copy of it, but I can provide it to the city or send it over to Mr. Snyder. So we did that, I think, about 2 months before application. And as I said earlier, I think a lot of the outreach starts now, because I think there's such thing as being too early. And there's also, the false flag of like, oh, hey, we reached out, sorry, we didn't get the license, so we wasted your time. So we've reached out. As part of that, we provide kind of our nuisance mitigation protocols. That's part of the pamphlet. Hey, this is what we do to avoid being a negative impact, and then also invite people for feedback. We typically don't see that feedback as much this early in the process, so we're looking forward to ramping that up and probably sending out mailers within the next week or two pending today's decision.
And what is your company's diversity practice?
So as mentioned earlier, Community Relations Officer Kika Keith, she is probably one of the most renowned individuals in the industry in terms of social equity advocacy. She works hand in hand with both our HR advisor, Jun Zhang, and Darlene Youssef to make sure that we're targeting traditionally criminalized communities and communities that were impacted by the war on drugs. Kika herself has 2 social equity companies, Social Equity Owners and Workers Association, as well as the Social Equity Individuals Training Hub. She usually brings an outreaches to the community through those to ensure that we're targeting any at-risk populations and that we're putting, I think, employment ads and things in the places that are going to attract a diverse population. At the end of the day, we do hire who is most qualified, but by having that outreach, we're seeing a lot of qualified individuals from a large span of the community. Our diversity numbers, I think we're at 67% female employment across all of our stores and over 62% Black, Indigenous, people of color. So we've been able to hit a high threshold with diversity hiring. And again, with Kika involved, we make sure that it's an essential aspect of what we do.
Now let's talk a little bit about the, are you a lounge or just a retailer?
We're just a retailer.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the building. Do you intend to lease or buy?
We've got an option to lease. It's a 5 plus 2 5s, so 15 in total.
Now, when you went through your research on sites, can you tell me, because I'm concerned, for the reasons you're excited about this site are the reasons I'm concerned about this site. We do consider it part of downtown. It's on the periphery. So you are downtown. But I am concerned about that area. So can you speak to what your process was in site location, and did you narrow it down to the top 2, top 3, and what was your second choice, if I could ask?
We had another location that was more central downtown. And again, for the reasons that I've stated earlier, we prefer to be outside of a central community. We feel that we've got a destination-based retail business model, so people are going to come to us. And by being away from something that's heavily trafficked on a very major route, we can decrease, I think, visibility. And we do have a pretty strong customer following, and we know that people are going to find us once we're in the community. So for us, it's not about being front and center. It's about being in a place where we can make an impact.
No, I agree on that, your model. Just for your information, our downtown vision is bold and loud, so don't be afraid of bold and loud. But again, let's go back to site selection. If there's a concern expressed from the body, do you have an alternative?
If there was a concern, we would consider alternatives, but I think we'd have to recanvass. I think we'd still prefer to be on a periphery.
That's fine.
But yeah, we definitely, if there were concerns moving forward with the site, we'd be open to the city's feedback on that.
And this is where local ownership would have helped you.
Yeah.
Because they would have let you know the history of the street and the issues and the challenges. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to know where I'm coming from at this point. We will discuss it further once we deliberate. But I think that would conclude the questions on my part.
Ms. Holmes, any questions?
I do not at this point.
Right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We do have quite a number of public comments, so I'm just going to give everybody 3 minutes to get a little stretch, and then we'll come back and start with the public comments.
And City Manager, would you ask IT for the next conversation, which is between council, to put up that last exhibit, page 203, that shows the sites of all 5 applications?
The map?
To put it up on the screen and on our screen. They keep turning off our screen. I don't want to see myself talk. I want to see the presentation.
It's kind of nice to stretch off, although it's so embarrassing because you can see all of the wrinkles in the back.
You're not supposed to look at yourself on TV.
I thought Lyndon was okay.
Still hot. That's odd. Usually it cools down with that ocean breeze.
It's a whole different.
I hope it's okay. I mentioned it. It seems like events are on my mind because it's 2 weeks.
Oh, Joseph.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
My hands are like so sweaty. I'm sorry. Hi.
This is the desert. Everybody's sweating. Yeah.
That's just nerves.
Yeah.
How are you talking to it? Hi.
Chuck, I'm Joseph, Jonathan.
Oh, no, Brian.
Oh, Brian. So what's the thing, Chuck?
Chuck,
How are
Chuck.
you? Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll have to sit and tell us Abby and Wendy. I saw you.
Oh,
So
please do.
yeah. How's Gina?
Doing great.
Yeah, wonderful. Great. Yeah. How you doing? You guys out obviously now. Good.
Have you guys met?
No, nice to meet you.
Hi, Lauren.
Although I'm like, sorry, my hands are so sweaty. This is a presenting.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming too. Yeah. And for, participation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a while.
Is that enough?
Yeah. What time?
Riveting, I know, it's riveting.
Oh, I was here about 4 too.
Yeah, we're so excited.
Catching up.
I always feel like these are kind of funny because, sorry.
No worries, no worries.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started with our public comments here. First off, we have Joseph Jonathan. How's it going?
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Jonathan. My company name is Smoke Tree Investments, and I'm based out of Palm Desert. I just wanted to first thank city staff, obviously council, but city staff is the one that's doing all of the work behind the scenes to be able to make a process like this happen. And I think it shows. We sat through 5 potential selected applicants for opening a dispensary here, and they're very well qualified and show what they would bring to our community, which I think is wonderful. I'm a lifelong desert resident. I was born and raised out here, and I came back after school to found my business out here. So I'm deeply committed to this community, and I wanted to speak about Embark and their application. I've been working with the Embark team for about a year now. It's been a long, diligent process on their behalf, but I'm so excited about what they would potentially bring to downtown Indio. When I first started professionally out here, I'm a commercial real estate broker and agent, I was so happy and heavily invested in South Downtown. I think there's so much opportunity. I see what that community can be, how vibrant it can be. I've brought new tenants into downtown Indio. I've helped clients purchase properties. I've helped clients do all multitude of things in downtown Indio, and I can see what Embark would additionally do. From a security standpoint, I think we talked about what their building is. I personally think it's a beautiful building to look at right now and can see what it will be with their investment in our community. And I can also see what it will do for the neighboring businesses. I think right next door we have what may be the oldest tortilla maker in Southern California. And I don't know that Embark will be at this location for 100 years like the Tortilleria would be, but I'm so excited about what they'll be for the very long term. We have a 10-year lease for Embark to be at this location, and I'm sure that they'll continue to see that out and more. And so all of those things I think are wonderful for our community, and I think it got touched on. I went out of the desert for school, and I came back professionally. And what I've seen is that we have companies that, like Embark, are willing to come from outside our community and invest in what we have as growth and what we have as potential. And I truly believe that we talk about other local businesses and things like that, but it takes an outsider to come in to become local too. Not all of us were born here, not all of us grew up here, but they could be the next generation that will help grow our community. And so I am so excited about their application, as with others, but I truly believe that Embark will be a wonderful partner for our nonprofit community, for our students, for our seniors, for all of the different things that they'll help do from a civic sense, but also professionally for all of our residents as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ana Gaeta.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortiz and members of the council. My name is Ana Gaeta, and I'm with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 1167. Our union represents thousands of cannabis workers throughout the United States, and I'm here today in support of Stizzy's application. I'm highlighting our support for their application because they share our vision, not only of empowering their employees, but of making sure that they are creating good family-sustaining jobs in our community. Currently, UFCW represents Stizzy workers in their retail locations throughout California, and they are the first cannabis shop to unionize in the Coachella Valley. If their application is approved for this location, the future employees will also be represented by our local. Our union contract ensures that Stizzy employees enjoy family-sustaining wages with guaranteed wage increases, vacation and holiday benefits, and representation in the workplace. I would also like to highlight that together with Stizzy, we put together the first in the nation retirement plan for cannabis workers. And Stizzy has a long track record of being a good community partner, and they're always looking for ways to give back to the communities in which they operate. For all of these reasons, we ask that you approve their application and that you bring in good paying jobs to local residents. We are also here in support of Embark's application. Embark has a collective bargaining agreement with UFCW locals in Northern California, which has accretion language with every local in the jurisdiction in which they operate. So if their application is approved here today, their CBA would provide future cannabis workers at Embark access to vacation, holiday pay, benefits, and wage increases among other benefits. I'd also like to note that Embark is part of our UFCW Cannabis Apprenticeship Committee, which is a state accredited apprenticeship program, and it shows their commitment to wanting to create career pathways for their employees. So the operators that we partner with and the employees we represent are helping set the standard for cannabis workers in the region, state, and throughout California. And then finally, I just would like to close by saying that we also look forward to working with the other applicants that we do have LPAs with today. And if they are to receive a license, we'll work with them to make sure that the terms of the agreement are followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Joe Duffel.
So good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Thank you. I'm Joe Duffel. I'm president of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 1167. I didn't plan to speak today, but I felt compelled to. So a couple of things. Anna did mention who it is that we're here to support today, but I wanted to elaborate on that. We have a relationship with Stizzy. It was one of the first growers from seed to sale that sat down with the UFCW and said, we want to take care of our employees. Our employees are a big part of our business, and this is what we feel we need to do. So they negotiated some contracts up north, negotiated some contracts down south, and then we had an idea, and they said, no, that's not good enough. We need to have a global agreement so every worker is treated with that same dignity, that same respect, and have that same quality. So we negotiated, as Anna said, the first ever nationwide global collective bargain agreement that has full medical for employees at the employer's expense, a full IPA benefits pension plan, first in the world, and the company helped lead the charge. Also with Embark, they have relationships with our local unions up in Northern California, and I talked to all of them yesterday, talked to Embark several times. I'm also very good friends with Chuck McDaniels, one of their equity partners. Nothing but good things to say, that they want to do the right thing, and they want to do the right thing by their employees. So we look forward to that relationship should that application be accepted. I will say that Culture, we do have a relationship and an LPA in place with Culture. We look forward to being able to execute that LPA and allow those employees to be union as well. Now, OTC, I want to be clear, everyone likes to drop UFCW's name around. We do not have an LPA with OTC in Palm Springs or any of their locations, Local 1167. The threshold is 20 per company, not per location. So I'd love to talk to you about your 2 Palm Springs locations before we leave today. So with that being said, listen, I know a lot of you in this room, born in Indio, as are most of us, and raised in Coachella, and this community means an awful lot to me. I want to make sure that the people that work in this community have an opportunity to buy a home in this community, have an opportunity to stay in our community, and that's very, very important. So as you're deliberating today on these licenses, please, let's keep that in mind. For too many years, companies have come in, taken from our communities, taken resources. Let's make sure that that doesn't happen here. Let's make sure that the people here are valued. This is a new industry. This is a growing industry. No pun intended at all. It's a budding industry. It's taking off. It's nationwide. There's conversations at the federal level on changing some of the policies. This could be a good thing. Let's make it good for our residents and the people that live and work in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, I believe it says Rich Twist.
Hi, Rich.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City staff. My name is Richard Twist. I'm the retired Chief of Police from the City of Indio. and a member of Embark's Community Advisory Board. So let me take this opportunity to express my full support for Embark Indio. In that capacity, I look forward to being able to ensure the financial benefits generated through Embark are invested in the needs and priorities of Indio. Embark is a trusted cannabis operator with significant track record of doing right by their community. I will tell you that over the past year, I've had the opportunity to research and communicate with community board members from throughout the state for Embark. I'm impressed by their model of empowering trusted community leaders to hold them accountable to their community commitments, ensuring retail cannabis in Indio is done right. Embark has selected a location where their presence will be a benefit to the surrounding neighborhood, bringing state-of-the-art security and commerce, enhancing a safety of the overall community for residents and businesses alike. Embark has done a significant community outreach to ensure neighborhood compatibility and has received positive feedback. In knowing Embark's leadership, I am confident that they will deliver a safe, responsible, and compliant cannabis retail storefront that will uplift and complement the city's long-term vision for a vibrant downtown district. Embark has earned my trust, and I urge the council to support Embark to open the first cannabis storefront in downtown Indio. I would also add that over the past year, I've had the opportunity to do significant due diligence on Embark through colleagues who are responsible for the enforcement and compliance in the cannabis industry, not only in California, but nationwide. And I found nothing negative with respect to Embark. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Luis Alvarado.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortiz, Indio City Council members, staff, and community members. My name is Luis Alvarado, and I am a proud Indio resident. I am here in strong support of the STICI to be awarded as a permit. STICI will serve as a responsible retailer that will attract investment in the city and will ensure their storefront is a good neighborhood to the surrounding businesses and community. STICI proposed location in a commercial area on the north side of Indio is ideal and will support economic growth in that area. I appreciate that STICI has made a commitment to hire locally and partner with UFCW to create an industry with family-sustaining jobs. STICI has proven track record of operations. They have successfully managed stores regionally in the Inland Empire, statewide, and also nationally. As cannabis culture is evolving, I am thankful that my city has embraced cannabis and has established a transparent process that prioritizes positive businesses for the city, including STICI. I respect request that you approve the operators and your staff recommendations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. Next up, we have Sean Maddox. No? Okay. Next up, we have Kate Spates.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kate Spates. I am the co-founder of Academy of Musical Performance, also known as AMP, or School of Rock. We're located right here in downtown Indio, and I'm here today in support of Gopi Sangha and Culture Cannabis Club. I've known Gopi for almost 10 years, and I've been in awe of his vast business knowledge when he was an integral part of Golden Voice, leading the way in their use of technology with festivals right here in Indio and beyond. When I introduced Gopi to AMP, he was immediately supportive and was vocal to others in the music industry about how great this program is for our Valley's youth. When he became involved with the Tamale Festival, he invited some of the young musicians to perform, giving them an amazing opportunity and a much needed and appreciated donation. He is community-minded, an incredible organizer, and a businessman with an outstanding work ethic. I don't know much about the cannabis industry, but I have full faith and confidence that Gopi Sanha and Culture Cannabis Club will be professional cannabis operators in the city of Indio and committed to being highly engaged with the community. And we look forward to their support and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Leticia de Lara.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council member, staff. I am a resident of the city of Indio, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking your time, studying this issue, and bringing it forward. And the quality of applicants today demonstrates that you did the right way, and thank you again. I am here representing the Regional Access Project Foundation, and I'm accompanied by my board chair, Jan Pai. And if you're not familiar with the Regional Access Project Foundation, also known as RAP, we are an organization that serves the Coachella Valley, and we are charged with strengthening our nonprofit community by providing resources, whether it's funding or whether it's educational resources to help strengthen our nonprofit community. And it ranges from health, mental health, and juvenile intervention, and it is supporting all of the Coachella Valley and incorporated areas. Jan is only one of the 20 board members who is representing our community. My board is very conservative. And I also want to acknowledge another board member, Elizabeth Romero, who is here and a resident of Indio as well. They are very conservative. I say that because they take their time to study issues and to make sure that whatever they are supporting, that it is above board and that it is something that will be supported by the community. And when we were approached by Stizzy over a year ago, that they wanted to learn more about what we do, and they wanted us to know what they wanted to do, they gave us the opportunity to visit their facility in Los Angeles, and then we were very impressed, very, very impressed by what they do and how much they care about the community, and the fact that they have demonstrated that by supporting RAP through funding. So we are here to support their application, and we are hoping that that others will follow in terms of how they treat the community and how they support our nonprofit community. So again, we're here to support their application, and we look forward to that partnership in the future.
Thank you.
I just want to say we have a few minutes. I'm representing as chair of the board, and Letty said it all.
Thank you. Next up, we have Alexis Perez.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortiz, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. My name is Alexis Perez. I'm a proud resident and local owner of Embark, Indio. I am really grateful for this opportunity, and I hope our elected leaders will support us in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Brian Estande.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'll try and be as brief as Alexis was. I'm a government affairs consultant and a contractor with Embark. And just real briefly, one of my main jobs is to get board members to sit on a community advisory board. There's 5 members that will speak today, testify, but one is not able to make it today. Ruben Perez, I just want to say what he's done on our behalf. He's a trustee for COD, representing the area of which Embark's building is located. And he was instrumental in setting up meetings with COD. As Lauren said when she first got here, we got to meet with COD, make sure they're comfortable with this. Set up meetings, had great conversation with Dr. Garcia and the director of the Learning Center there, got great input and incorporated into their plans. So once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Estande. Next up, we have Chuck McDaniel.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's good to be here. My name is Chuck McDaniel. I live in the city of Indio over in Sun City Shadow Hills, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Embark Indio as a local owner. Some of you may remember that I was a rep for the IBEW for many, many years. I retired about 4 years ago, but I spent a lot of time in places like this and meetings like this, and it's good to be back. You know, I miss this part of my job, not enough to actually go back to work and do it full time, but I do miss the community involvement, organized labor in support of working families here in Riverside County and the state, and this is a way to continue that effort. This company, as others have said, is a living wage, a union wage with benefits. I've always been passionate about that, and really that's why I'm here today, talking on their behalf. So anyways, this is a good day for Indio. New businesses coming in, that's always good. New tax revenue, that's always good. And it's going to be safer. People don't have to drive all over the valley to go shopping. So thanks for letting me speak, and I hope you support our efforts to open up this store.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel.
I reviewed the and reefer madness based his administrative appellants are still being denied. Pages of inconclusive actual rhetoric, whereas my case brief had precise information while competing against 28 other dispensaries just in Palm Springs. If Indio permits 9 dispensaries and 7 achieve my Palm Springs community benefit dollar amounts, that equates to $2.2 million estimated revenue to the city of Indio in 1 year. Like in the other cities I listed in my email, if the city of Indio moves forward without including their appellants, the city may experience serious delays in cannabis revenue due to legal challenges. Please do not discard the appellants from the permitting process. It is important to note that over a year has passed since the adoption of the resolution limiting cannabis storefront permits to 5. It's time to look at this again and plan for growth. I've provided the council with all the materials that were presented in my appeal, and I hope that you find the time in your very, very busy schedules to study it. Again, I'm 100% owner of my business, and I'm local to the Coachella Valley. Please support small businesses, not just big businesses. And
Thank you, Stephen. Mr. Montgomery, did you have anything you wanted to add?
There are no other public comments?
No, that's it. Or somebody, anything? Okay.
The resolution and so forth. But one thing I think is very clear, that the 5 applicants that you heard from today are very well qualified. And you saw why, through their presentations, why they rose to the top. We are concerned to make sure that all of the licenses that you grant, they actually open. And we're confident these 5 will do so. These 5 have the experience, not only at the local level, but obtaining the necessary state licensing that is required. You know, the idea that there will be revenue that comes to the city is critical, helping our public safety personnel. At least $1 million, could be up to $2 million through these 5 licenses. And then, just in conclusion, the benefits to the other nonprofit organizations and to the employment sector here in the community. If we were looking at a business, just 1 or 5, that would bring well over $1 million, $1 to $2 million of revenue to the city, would employ 250 people, say 150 to 200 people, and would also provide a living wage. These are jobs that are people would seek after. We would jump at those. And that's what's being presented to you this evening. We know there are some, because there were 13 that applied, that are disappointed with the process. But I can assert publicly that the process was fair, that we followed all of the proper procedures outlined in the ordinance and the resolutions. It was a rigorous process, and these 5 that are presented to you today, and that presented, are the applicants that we recommend that you grant the licenses to. So with that, Mayor, we do look for a decision this evening so that those that are selected can move forward and move these licenses and the employment for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery, and we do appreciate all the efforts from our staff and our applicants to bring forward some great projects here for our city. I do believe we have some great applications here with some great potential to bring in some of the economic benefits and community benefits that we've been missing out on in the past. Personally, this is really important for me because of my experiences previously in the industry and making sure that patients who needed this medically had safe access to this. One thing I do want our council to consider, that even though we have some great applications here, we requested local ownership to make sure we were giving opportunities to local operators and also to make sure that we were able to keep the profits from cannabis within our community. I think our consultants have unfortunately failed to provide that strict enough policy to allow for that to truly happen here. The local ownership conversation, the interview process was limited to a yes or no question with no ability to elaborate. I believe there's too many loopholes in this application to allow for buyouts or other methods of building the perception of local ownership without the true benefits of local ownership. I do still believe we have 5 great applications, right? So what my suggestion is for our council is I would like for us to approve the current top 5 applicants and also open up the space for 2 to 3 more licenses for any of our applicants who are still interested in moving forward, but include a more strict local ownership requirement to make sure we include a more substantial local cannabis market as we move forward in this industry. Recognizing that many of the licensees are currently paying leases and have been paying rent every month throughout this process, I would like this process to be expedited. What the requirements would be in this new application would be ownership would be determined by strict requirements for equity, profit sharing, and managerial control. The local requirement should be someone who has lived in Indio or the Coachella Valley for at least 5 years within the past 20 years. Proof of residence shall be supported by a minimum of 2 of the following documents: California drivers or identification card records, property tax billings and payments, signed rental agreement, verified copies of state or federal tax returns with an address in the geographic area of the city of Indio, school records, medical records, banking records, or utility, cable, or internet company billing and payment records. So my request is to see if I could get support from the council to open up those 2 additional licenses to make sure that we have a strong local component in the cannabis industry.
I was going to comment anyway. I mean, this is our first brush at considering cannabis in our city, and we've learned a lot. Certainly, it was not an easy process on the side of the applicants or on the side of staff. And I believe we have some cleanup work to do so that we can have a better policy as to how we will move forward in the future when considering applications. And it may be that we do consider additional licenses, but at this time, I don't think it's wise to move forward with additional licenses. Let's move forward with the plan that we have, see how this works, see if all 5 stand the test of time, and let's see how we work with them, because we, as a city, still need to come up with internal processes on reporting and how we're going to work with the applicants. So although I am supportive of your request for additional applications, I think this is early on to be considering that. And with respect to your local ownership preference, I believe that that would be a legal challenge. And I don't believe that we can do that as a city to strictly state we're only going to open applications to a specific demographic, whatever that demographic is. So personally, I don't support it. I do have other comments and other questions that I'd like to make, but you're welcome to ask my colleagues if any of them would support your position.
Finish up?
What?
You want to finish up? You
No, I got no. Right now, we have to address the mayor's request.
Thank you.
Elaine, look at her face.
And
What's wrong with my face? I have an opinion.
Just a quick note as well, the requirements that I suggested are from the city of Coachella and have already been approved and
They
used.
are not anybody to be following steps after.
It worked. They have local ownership there.
Yeah, but it's still a legal challenge
There was no legal challenges there.
because that's the city of Coachella. They
I
don't
don't think so.
accept them.
Go ahead, Ms. Holmes.
You know, this has been a very long and arduous process, a very careful process, and I think we have 5 very good and very excellent candidates at this point. I think we need to continue to take baby steps very, very carefully. I think, and to that end, you know, I support the 5 that we have, and I'm not closing the door on adding a couple more. However, at this point, I don't support that request. I'd like us to continue working with the process with the 5 individuals that have come before us.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to all the applicants and our staff for doing a great job on continuing to move this forward. We have 5 great applicants that I see. I see where you're coming with it, and I support the opportunity to do it later, but we haven't even gotten through these 5 yet and figure out how they're gonna have an effect on our community and if they're even gonna succeed. To flood the market with a couple extras going forward, and I agree with Lupe, I don't have a problem putting some preferences on it, but I wanna open up to everyone. Obviously, this was a scoring system that wasn't done by just the city, it was done by a multiple group of people, and the points came out, and these were the 5 people that got the most points, and that's how that came forward. And the application should be dictated off of what was brought forward to us. But the opportunities, I think, from what we've seen is there's different kinds of dispensaries that are gonna go in, they have different kind of themes, different kinds of ideas, and I think it'll work well. But the city of Indio hasn't even gone into this market yet, so I'd like to really see how it's gonna affect, how these affect the community as a whole. Do they succeed? And if then from there, then more than happy to go forward. I was the third vote on this, you know, it was 3-2 basically, when we went through to actually think about dispensaries. And so I'm a little leery on this, but I think we have some great applicants. So I think we should move forward with what staff has recommended, what our people that did the scoring have, and see how they come forward. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate all 5 applicants. I have other comments, but I'll address the mayor's request. It is our first time going through this, and we hired some consultants, and we worked with staff, we worked with the community leaders, we did outreach, we learned a lot during this process. So going through the first time, you know, or going through the next time, it's never going to be perfect. Everybody's not always going to be happy. I think we can understand that. Indio does have room for growth. We're the largest city in the Coachella Valley, and this is 5 licenses for retail only, right? And so 2 or 3 more wouldn't oversaturate our city at all. We have a lot of room for growth. I like to see that happen in the future. I couldn't put a timeline on it. I like to see our businesses open. I have no doubt that they will not be successful. They will be successful. They made it this far. It was an intense, firm, and fair process. Could we make improvements? Maybe, but I think anything that we do in our life could always have improvement. So we may not be ready to open them now today, but I think this is something that we could revisit in the near future, this fiscal year.
Right. Well, you know, I was in the industry for a long time, and I remember the days of, I don't know if anybody remembers MTC in Coachella, and we would see the Lamborghinis pull up, fill up the trunk with cash, and leave the area, right? And that's what we're leaving open to happen in our community at the moment with the way things are written and the way that we've, and I take blame for that as well, because I approved it, I missed it. And so I'm trying to mitigate that now, but if there's no council support, then we'll move on to the next request.
Which is council comments.
Yes, go ahead.
Who do you want to start with?
Want to go for me?
City manager, would you please ask IT again to put up that map of the city?
They are ready to do so. This is a citywide map that includes all 5 finalists located there. Maybe a little bit of zoom, Matt. There we go. So you see the yellow dots are the 5 proposed locations.
Okay, yeah. And I promise I'm not going to go too long.
You say that every time.
I say it every time, okay. No, I appreciate our staff. Thank you to our staff, our consultants, our attorneys, our city manager, our council, and the community for working with us through this process. Like I mentioned previously, this is our first time going through it. And I think, you know, so to speak, that we did a good job. And I also appreciate the applicants, the time that has went into your prep for this. I appreciate the hard work that you all endured going through this, not only the 5 who made it thus far, but also the other applicants. And I'd like to see you all come back in the future. I appreciate the beautification and the architecture especially, and the security around these properties, because I believe it's going to enhance our city. I'm a public safety guy, so I'm big on that, and I'm just going to be honest with you. It was a transition for me personally to even consider cannabis in our world. But when I opened my eyes and looked at the demand and how it does benefit our community as far as medical, and I'm not talking revenue because I won't put a number on our public safety, but what it does for the medicinal portion of our community. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate, I didn't see no big green leaves, and I didn't see any big green crosses, because I do not like that. I believe in revitalization as it is, and we want to beautify our community. I also want to speak to the history of the war on drugs in Indio. Many of you do not know, but the war on drugs negatively impact the Black community in the city of Indio in the 80s, and some of us were here to witness that. It wasn't against the law, but it is a consequence of the war on drugs. So when we talk DEI, I hope that we not only work to educate some of the 3% that we do have in our community, educate and give those opportunities for employment and in this industry, because the Black community in Indio was negatively impacted. However, the generations that we have now are still feeling that effect of those consequences. And also, I also like to see if when you do work with the community, let's talk about affordable housing. I know there were some things up in Sacramento and they're talking on the federal level. I do not want to price our industry out of our city. I do not want to tax our industry out of our city, but I do think talking about affordable housing in all sectors is important, and I like to have that conversation in the future with the licensees who are afforded. And also, not only the affordable housing in African-American community, but our veterans. Please keep our veterans in mind as well, because we do have a lot of veterans who fall under that gap of affordable housing as well. And in conclusion, I just want to thank all of our applicants again, thank our staff, and at the conclusion of this, I would like to have a copy of all presentations, because I see that as a driver's license in our community. And not to single anyone out, but I do want to say that I'm a strong supporter of our unions in our world. Our unions enhance our workers' rights, job security, and improves working conditions and fairness and equity in our community. So that is a big consideration for me supporting any company. And I will say this about local ownership. I do support local ownership, and I do believe in enhancing our local economy. But I do welcome folks from the outside to come in and be partners, because Indio has grown, and it didn't only grown because folks are from here. It grown because we open our doors to other partners. So that will complete my report, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to again congratulate everyone for their efforts, especially staff and the applicants coming in. Looking forward to the opportunities to see your business models work. And I agree with Councilman Furman. I think we need to see what you guys have really presented to make sure that you actually follow through with it, and make sure that our staff make sure that we get that report back to us of what kind of employment you have, what kind of impact you've actually had, what kind of charities you've helped, because that was one of the reasons, not only to give our city some opportunities for dollars, jobs, and some well-paying jobs with the union, but also to give back to our community and to make sure that when the products were coming in, that the city of Indio kind of had to say. I live in a gated community at Heritage Palms, and we had 3 or 4 transponders that came in every day from outside the area, from distributors that came in from the city, because we didn't have any actual dispensary here. So to me, this is an opportunity for the city of Indio to grow and to be able to continue to create jobs and opportunities. So I like the idea of local ownership, but at the same time, if it was local ownership, we wouldn't have Golden Voice here. We wouldn't have some of the other individuals that have brought millions of dollars, not only into the city of Indio, but the Coachella Valley. And as much as everybody wants to worry about Indio, Indio doesn't just live in Indio. We have jobs all over the Coachella Valley. Our residents are the worker bees, so we're out everywhere. So the more that the rest of the Coachella Valley benefits, the better the city of Indio does. So I look forward to seeing how we can move forward, and thank you for your investment in the city of Indio.
Ms. Holmes? Ms. Holmes, do you have any comments?
It would help if I unmute. I apologize for that. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I felt these presentations were very thorough and very well thought out. In fact, I was impressed with them, particularly in the areas of of community outreach. A great deal of thought has been put into this, into how they work within our community, about how people are employed, about many of the benefits that can be provided. That is a roadmap for us. That's a roadmap for me to watch this industry, and particularly these applicants, move forward in our community. I think I have one area of concern, and that is that the area there off of, or the property, the facility there off of Sultan, that raises a few red flags, not for the business necessarily, but more considering the location. Perhaps we will uplift as a result of that business being there. However, I would proceed with caution. Again, I